Go. Hey, everybody. Tonight we're debating whether or not fluoride in our water is killing us, and we are starting right now with Dr. Thompson's opening. Thanks for being with us, Dr. Thompson. The floor is all yours.
Great. So I have a thank you for having me, James. I really appreciate it. I've got some slides I'd like to show. We good to go?
Ready.
Great. So yes, tonight we're debating whether fluoride in drinking water is toxic. Now, essentially, basically, this conversation boils down to one major question. Is it quote unquote safe to put fluoride in drinking water? All right. So the thing is, public health improves human flourishing and communities across the world. It's had an enormous impact on societies. Things such as vaccines, such as wastewater treatment, such as distribution of safe, clean water to communities has immeasurably improved human health over the years. And public health has had an enormous impact on communities over the last 150 years. Fluoridation is actually one of the major proud achievements of overall public health. What is fluoridation? So fluoridation is simply the addition of fluoride to drinking water that is below the level of what is considered to be quote unquote safe and effective in helping to prevent tooth decay. All right, so that's what fluoridation is. Fluoride is simply just an element. That's what it is. It is one element on the periodic table. It is just that. And it is natural and it occurs in nature. And in fact, levels of natural fluoride varies enormously across regions. So this is a map of the world showing some data indicating that levels of fluoride can vary enormously across many places, including within the United States. This natural level of fluoride has existed for centuries, for all of human history. And this fluoride, of course, exists as salts, as minerals, as crystals. And fluoride generally will want to go into solution relatively easily. So it exists in local geology. When water flows through the local geology, that fluoride goes into solution and it'll go into the water and it'll end up in the drinking water sources for human populations. Again, this has been happening for centuries. When public health was in its infancy, modern public health as an industry in its infancy about 100 years ago, we wanted to know things like, does level of fluoride in drinking water have an impact on overall human health? So there were all kinds of studies that indicated that, okay, it varies a lot in different populations and that there is some impact. Some data indicated that elevated levels of fluoride, really high levels of fluoride, has negative impact. And there are many studies indicating that very high levels of fluoride in drinking water results in ill effects on overall health, such as increasing the risk of certain kinds of cancers, bone loss due to fluorosis and decalcification, as well as in some children who get exposed to elevated levels of fluoride, it results in cognitive deficits such as diminished IQ scores. That's communities where there's really high levels of fluoride. What we found, though, is that this pattern that was looked at was actually really, really interesting. Certainly low levels didn't have those ill effects, but there was a medium range of fluoride that seemed to have no ill effects. There were no apparent effects on overall IQ scores. That's what the data shows, or like increased risk of cancer. But what we did find is that in those communities where there was relatively low levels of fluoride, and what I mean by relatively low levels of fluoride is somewhere between 0.7 and 1.2 milligrams per liter or parts per million. That's going to be the number we're talking about. That those areas had reduced incidence of dental decay. So this is a screenshot from a very famous study showing this relationship in 3 different states in the nation before there was any fluoridation happening, that in these states, there was this relationship of fluoridation, of fluoride levels that were relatively high, not super duper high, but relatively high, and reduced incidence of dental problems as much as 2 to 3 times decreased. We have seen this phenomenon of fluoridation and the incidence of elevated levels of fluoride in drinking water, leading to lower tooth decay in study after study. And this is just another recent study. So Israel is one country that has gone back and forth on whether they're going to do fluoridation or not. And indeed, it does decrease tooth decay by about 2 to 3-fold. So the point is that I'm trying to make is that, I'm a toxicologist. I'm a neurotoxicologist. I study the effects of how environmental toxicants affect the developing brain. That's what my lab focuses on. Toxicology's mantra is the dose makes the poison, that there are chemicals throughout the environment. And some of these chemicals, when you get exposed to enough of them, they will have deleterious effects on overall human health. Okay. And we certainly know that there can be high enough levels of fluoride that will lead to problems for human health. But the levels that we're talking about when we talk about fluoridation are at the levels that are considered to be natural and normal and don't have any of these ill effects. We have no evidence that they have any ill effects, such as the ones that are very high levels. Now, the reason why we're debating this at all is because this guy, so RFK Jr., has just been nominated by Donald Trump to be the new director of the Department of Health and Human Services in the United States. So this is a major federal agency in the United States. And in RFK Jr.'s first interview after he received this nomination, he said that he is going to direct his agency to tell communities across the United States to cease fluoridation of water. 70% of people in the United States receive fluoridated water. It does vary from community to community. The amount of fluoride that is found in some communities actually is just at the natural level that is expected, or that occurs. That's the target rate. So they don't actually even add fluoride. So there's no artificial fluoride added to their water. So I don't know what it's going to do about that, but we're going to see. But we do know, we ran this experiment. We know what happens when you remove water from fluoride from drinking water sources. So Calgary did this in 2011. They voted to remove fluoride from their drinking water. And what they found is that in the couple of years right after that, dental decay went up. So especially for children, there was an increase of twofold of the number of children that were experiencing dental decay. And in this case, what we're looking at is treatment that required general anesthesia. So these are essentially like kids receiving surgeries. And what we're showing here is the fluoridated increasing quite a bit. You can see that that's increased nearly twofold just by 8 years later. And the fluoridated community is Edmonton, a nearby city, another city in Alberta, where they did not remove fluoride. And you can see that there's no substantial increase in dental decay that was happening in those communities. So this is an issue, right? So every single public health choice, you have to weigh a number of things: risk, benefit, and cost. The cost is quite little, right? So to fluoridate our water systems costs about 50 cents per citizen per year in a major city. The cost, what we have found over and over again, is that it costs about $28 in additional dental costs per citizen per city when they transition from not fluoridated systems to non-fluoridated systems. So there's an additional just a cost of that's just the monetary cost, let alone the fact that you have to put kids asleep so that they can actually get surgery to get rotten teeth taken out of their mouths. So there's definitely a benefit. The risk is minimal, and we can go through that. And the reason why me and other people realize that actually the risk cost benefit ratio is quite high is because Calgary in 2021 voted to return fluoride to their water. The vote at the Calgary City Council was 13-2 to return fluoride to their water. So I reached out to Whitsitt on this about this issue because I saw, obviously this is a hot topic. That's why we're debating this in modern day debates. He was harassing a bunch of public health officials on Twitter and putting out this list of a bunch of different publications. Supposedly, I think his argument is showing that levels of when you add fluoride to drinking water, that is somehow going to lead to reduced IQ, and that just simply isn't the case. There's no evidence supporting that. I actually went through this list. I didn't look through every single paper, but I looked through most of them, and I would say that many of these papers, one, they don't show what he's saying. Two, many of them are actually consistent with what I'm saying. And three, some of them are just junk science and are very problematic. And a number of them, actually, I can't even figure out what they have to do with anything. So my goal tonight is to actually, hopefully Whitsitt will give his argument. We can talk about these studies and we'll go through these things.
Thank you very much for that opening. We are going to kick it over to Whitsitt for his opening as well. I was on mute that whole time. Okay, folks, thanks for your patience. Welcome to Modern Day Debate. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. We have plenty more debates coming up. And with that, Whitsitt, the floor is all yours for your opening as well.
Nice. Okay. Thank you, man. All right, cool. So, lot to unpack here. I heard him say that he's a toxicologist, and I find that very perplexing that the distinction between the two different types of fluoride he conflated in his opener was not made, but I will happily do it. So he talked about natural fluoride in the water. He actually showed regions that have higher concentrations of fluoride in the water. Now, let's take a look at this. There are two different types of fluoride, right? And relevant to this discussion, we have naturally occurring fluoride, which is calcium fluoride, the natural version of fluoride, which is this basically harmless form of fluoride that he consistently references. It's sleight of hand. I don't know. I'm not going to assume intention here, but the natural version of fluoride is known as calcium fluoride, which is naturally found in soil. Also, it naturally carries off into water supplies. While not something you want in abundance in your water, like he was saying, it's not particularly harmful to us. Calcium fluoride is considered the quote unquote least toxic, in some cases, relatively harmless, and that's because it's high in solubility. Moreover, calcium is a well known antidote for fluoride poisoning. In nature, an antidote often naturally exists in combination with the poison, making the poison less toxic to our body. However, there is a synthetic fluoride additive called sodium fluoride, and that's what is actually added to our water. The synthetic industrial version of fluoride is added to public drinking water, and it's called sodium fluoride. The industrial version is a synthetic toxic waste known to cause cancer. The term fluoride is a cover-up name for many of the toxic chemicals that made up fluoride, including lead, arsenic, aluminum, cadmium, fluorosilicic acid, and even radioactive materials. Also, this is not a pharmaceutical grade form of fluoride, meaning it wasn't refined before they added it to our water and actually perfectly matching the predictions that there would be other toxic chemicals in the fluoride because it, again, wasn't refined. It's not pharmaceutical grade. They looked in there and they found lead, arsenic, aluminum, all kinds of heavy metals that have been proven to actually have insane neurological effects. Now, even lead, this is the same thing they did with lead in the early 2000s. The governmental funded agency said lead wasn't poisonous and had no neurodevelopmental issues. That's what happened. And even as recent as 2000, there were government funded agencies that were fighting the poison toxicity of lead. So that's a very important distinction here, is the difference in the two types of fluoride that are added here. There's enough fluoride in 1 tube of toothpaste to kill 2 small children. This is why the fluoridated toothpastes have warning labels on them and say fluoride-free toothpastes do not. They say immediately contact poison control, right? The fluoride added to 90% of drinking water is hydrofluoric acid, which is a compound of fluorine, which is a chemical byproduct of aluminum, steel, cement, phosphate, and nuclear weapons manufacturing. He said that it's only roughly 80 cents per citizen. You know why? Because the only expense to us is to actually pay for the people that physically add it to the water, because it's actually it's a waste product. It's literally a waste product. Okay. And in fact, it's such a toxic waste product that they have to immediately bag it because it is not allowed to evaporate or land on the ground at all. It is that toxic. And don't take my word for it. We will look and see if I can play a video. I did share sound. We'll play a 1-minute clip here of what happened when they were trying to add this to the water and some of it spilled. And this is what's going in your water that was just completely ignored to be a different type of fluoride.
Really quick,
We're good?
is this copyrighted or not? One thing
I
you
don't think
could
so.
do is, in theory, you could play it and then
No
say what the
sound.
guy is saying.
Yeah. Play it, no sounds, what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay, that's
as
cool.
long as assuming you remember what he says and can tell us
Yeah,
what he's
yeah,
saying.
yeah. It's pretty simple. Pretty simple. It just can't trust me. The news says it. But anyway, it's just a news clip. You should be fine. But either way, they when they were going to treat the water, they spilled it and actually had to rush out hazmat suits. It started eating into the concrete. It started eating into the concrete. This is what we're putting in the actual water that we give our children. Okay. And so I'll drop the link or whatever so you guys can watch this yourself. The amount of cope is crazy because this gets so much worse. Now, okay, I'm going to try to rush through this and we'll get into it during the debate, right? But here we go. So if you look at the number one argument as to why, and you can go to docs.witsit.tv, I started making a little page for this. If you go down, his argument was that it's for teeth, right? Oh, the government cares about your teeth. They don't care about putting titanium dioxide in all the food that's a known carcinogenic and neurotoxin, proven carcinogenic and incredibly are toxic for the development of fetuses, proven. and denied by the government for 20 years. But the government cares about your teeth. So here's the actual study of fluoridated versus non-fluoridated countries. And if you'll see that the decline and teeth decay, whether they were fluoridated or non-fluoridated, all trend in the same direction. But he's going to isolate one little city and claim that the people voted for it. The people didn't vote for anything. The council voted for it, a city council. So you just said 13-2. I think more people live in a city than 15 people. And so this is, of course, proof that that isn't true. Now, it gets even worse. If you actually look, the CDC originally said that ingestion would actually help with the teeth decay. They've since revised it. They've done one study ever, and the link is right over here. We can pull it up during the thing, but it's right here. These two studies right here by the CDC. And they've now come out and said that the only form of fluoride that's actually beneficial to your teeth or teeth decay, preventative teeth decay, is actually topical application. They then did the first study ever where they actually looked at ingestion and the effects, and it showed that there was no true benefit that could be isolated. And this was demanded for many years. Can I get a time check?
Yes, you have 6 minutes.
You're really low. I couldn't hear you.
You have 6 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So the CDC, now I just want to make sure that everyone's understanding what's going on here. There are two different types of fluoride. The distinction was not made. The average person in the public doesn't know it. The pharmaceutical or it's actually predominantly fertilizer companies and aluminum or metal companies. They didn't know what to do with this waste product. What do they do with it? You can't put it on the ground. It's not allowed to vaporize. It's against the law. The EPA has said it's against the law to allow it to vaporize, and that is objectively the exact same chemical that is put in our water. Okay, so they didn't know what to do with it. How do they get rid of it? Oh, well, it can't go on the ground. It can't vaporize. Well, let's just add it to our water. Okay, that is factually what happened. Factually, the fluoride that is added to your water is a waste product, is an industrial waste product from fertilizer and aluminum and metal companies inside those industries, and they add that to your water. Okay, now, he then said that the amount of fluoride that's added to the water, and a good website to go here is fluoridealert.org. This is Fluoride Action Network. And he said that it's been disproven that it has any connection to IQ. That is not true. So I'll tell you real briefly what the actual history of this is. So there was this nonprofit actually sued because they actually tried to come to the EPA and say, look, there's correlative data that's showing that there's a direct relationship between IQ. And they didn't do anything, so they sued them in federal court. And then right prior to the judgment, the federal court said, well, I actually want like the accredited agency to do a full diagnostic systematic review of all the data, right? And so this was a 2017 court case. And then in 2022, they were finally ready to release the data. And guess what happened? The CDC, the ADA, which is the Dentist Association, and another group, this was discovered via FOIA after the fact. They actually pressured the NIH, the second in charge, the deputy at the NIH, the second in charge, actually told them he forbid them from publishing the actual study. He forbid them. 5 years after it was in court, they went and actually studied the link to IQ. He forbid them. So then the judge, why would they do that? I thought they were here for our safety. It's been disproven. There's no correlation to IQ. So the judge then overruled it. And here's the history of the lawsuit right here. You can read it. It's still ongoing. And the judge overruled it and forced them to release it. And it then says in the actual document, and we'll come down here, you can go to health effects on fluoride. You go down to brain. And here you go, you can read that there's over 85 human studies. And then we'll go back to what it ended up showing, even the systematic review of the organization showed that there was, in fact, a correlation between IQ. Go ahead.
1 minute left.
Okay, and fluoride. And so then, and we'll get into all the specifics here. I'll actually stop sharing unless that'll mess you up.
No, we're good.
Just the last minute. So then in 2012, Harvard actually put together a study or put together a group to look at the studies. They up to the internal Harvard standards of what studies were permissible. They picked 27 out of roughly the 80 or so. There's more now, so there's a little less than 80. And 26 of the 27 showed a direct correlation with IQ. And they conceded in the review that there was a 0.46 drop off. What they did was they took the 0.46 standard deviation number and improperly claimed it was 0.46 of a point. No, of a standard deviation, which is of course 15 points in the IQ curve. So then they just updated it and said, oh, well, 7 points is no big deal. This was done again in 2016 and done again in 2023 by the same exact group of scientific counselors. So it has been proven and conceded by the actual accredited organizations that there is up to 7-point average out of the 26 or 27 approved studies that there's a decrease in your IQ on average, a 7-point decrease for fluoridated water. And that's based on the permissible amount. So that's insane to me. We're giving it to children with no teeth. And it's for their teeth. So
Thank you very much for that opening as well. We are going to kick it into the open dialogue. I want to let you know, folks, we will have Q&A after the open dialogue. If you happen to have a question, feel free to submit it either via @ModernDayDebate in the live chat, or you can do a super chat, which will push your question to the top of the list. With that, folks, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. With that, gentlemen, thanks very much. The floor is all yours.
you're muted.
Let me just check if I...
Thank you. Yep. Okay, thanks. I was cutting out a little bit. Hopefully you can hear me now.
Yeah, we hear you.
All right. So great. I'm glad that you finished off talking about that Harvard study. So if we can start going through your list a little bit, because you linked to a press release about the Harvard study as evidence supporting that. But in your list of links, let's go through your list of links a little bit. Okay, the ones that you're sharing on Twitter. Yeah.
I'm not.
We're going to talk about that. No, I seriously, it's coming up. I promise.
I'm not here to defend my ex posts, right?
I understand that. We're going to talk exactly about what you were just saying. Okay. All right.
No. I'm going to quote from. Okay, I'll pull up the Harvard. Pull up the.
I'll get to it. Don't worry. We'll get to it. It'll be on the next slide. Okay. So the very first link that you posted was this article. Okay. On X, right? That was your first link as support. That
I'm not here to defend my ex.
Okay, I understand that, but why? Can you explain why this particular article is evidence that fluoride is toxic to neurodevelopment? Do you happen?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, I can show you. That's no problem. I'll remind you. There's only a single
stuff in
yes. No, hold on. There's a single sentence. We're getting to it. We're getting to it. Trust me, Austin. We're getting to it. Just be patient.
That's all you have.
There's a single line in this article that you link to that refers to fluoride in drinking water and toxic effects, and this is it. Okay. A meta-analysis of 27 cross-sectional studies of children exposed to fluoride in drinking water, mainly from China, keep that in mind, suggests an average IQ decrement of about 7 points in children exposed to raised fluoride concentrations.
Go to the study now. Go to the study now.
Exactly. Let's do it. So that's Choi.
Now, when you say in China, wait, when you say when it's in China, this isn't me just listening to you lecture.
No, hold on. Okay. Let me get to it. Okay. So this is the study.
The debate is, Christopher? It's me also responding to you.
Austin, this is the study. Just be patient. Okay. This is the study you were just talking about. Developmental fluoride neurotoxicity, a systematic
it was 27
review and
studies that I was talking about. 27 studies.
27. Yes, this is a synthesis, a meta-analysis where they looked at 27 other studies, and they showed that children in high fluoride areas have significantly lower IQ than those who lived in low fluoride areas. Now, the thing is, they say this in the study itself, which I'm sure you read very thoroughly. Most of the epidemiological evidence information available on associations with children's neurodevelopment is from China, where fluoride generally occurs in drinking water as a natural contaminant, and the concentration depends on local geological conditions. The study goes on to say, opportunities for epidemiological studies depend upon the existence of comparable population groups exposed to different levels of fluoride from drinking water. Such circumstances are difficult to find in many industrialized countries because fluoride concentrations in community water are usually no higher than 1 milligram per liter, right? 1 part per million. That's that's actually at or above slightly the target for fluoridation for fluoridation purposes in community water. Even when fluoride is added to multiple water supplies as a public health measure to reduce tooth decay. Yes, right.
Do you want me to summarize your argument?
It's multiple epidemiological studies of development fluoride neurotoxicity were conducted in China because the high fluoride concentrations that are substantially above 1 milligram per liter in well water in many rural communities.
Yeah.
They're not fluoridating.
Your argument is that
you said that they were adding fluoride to these studies.
The mic,
this is natural. This is natural exposure, and you're just absolutely wrong.
All right, we'll give you a chance to respond.
Yeah, please respond. I'm done.
Okay. So you acted like you were going to respond. You didn't. What you did.
I totally responded.
No. Don't interrupt me. Okay. So now what they actually did in China was what normally happens with like the CDC and NIH and stuff, they just hand wave dismiss it because it was in China. Okay. Now actually it was an incredible place to do it because there were villages side by side that had no difference other than the fact that some had fluoride in the water and some of it was including artificially added waste product fluoride. Factually.
Wrong.
Now, your argument must be, for me to still man your argument here, it must be that they studied such higher amounts than what's in the water domestically that it isn't relevant to the water supply in the United States. Is that your argument?
Austin, you're completely wrong on this.
Can you respond to what I just asked you?
They don't do artificial fluoridation in China at the moment. They don't. And they haven't in decades. And in fact, it has been very inconsistent because in China, as this shows, this is the reason why so many epidemiological studies are done in China, because they have naturally high levels of fluoride, really high levels. They have to remove it from the water because there's so much natural fluoride.
Let me ask you a question. How do they get rid of their waste? You're lost. So how do they get rid of their waste product in China from the aluminum and fertilizer companies?
I don't know. I'm not
an industrial scientist. They dump it in water,
I don't know.
Christopher.
They do not dump it in the water. Are you telling me that this is why they have naturally high levels of fluoride?
Wait. You're saying you don't know how they do it, but you know they don't dump it in water. Is that your argument?
Look,
is that your argument?
The levels in fluoride in China have been long before industrialization. The levels in China have had very high levels of fluoride long before industrialization. This is a natural thing.
Christopher, do you remember when I had to teach you, the toxicologist, that there's a difference in the natural form of fluoride and then the synthetic form of fluoride? Do you remember that you didn't address that at all? Remember that part?
It doesn't matter. We're talking about fluoride ions. It doesn't actually matter.
It doesn't actually matter?
No, it doesn't. Because you're talking about sodium fluoride. Okay, let's talk about that. All right.
Wait, answer my question. Is sodium fluoride more toxic than calcium fluoride? Yes or no?
No.
You're going on record as a toxicologist.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're objectively wrong. Okay.
At low enough levels, if you were getting the fluoride ion to 1 milligram per liter, no, it's not more toxic.
Are you going to share screen for your predetermined hit piece against my ex post the whole screen? Yeah. All right, look, I don't want it to get all heated. It's all cool, but it's pretty funny, right? Because for starters, this happened in 2012 and they acknowledged there is a correlation. So let's just get your position. Let's get your position very clear. You acknowledge there is in fact a correlation that if someone consumes too much fluoride in their water, that they will actually have a lower IQ.
Do you want to look at the data? Because
that was a very
I can see that because as I said in my opening, there are toxic levels that you can be exposed to fluoride. This is true for sodium chloride. If you drink enough sodium chloride, there will be toxic effects, and you can actually die from consumption of too much.
We're going to go one step at a time. So you agree that there is a proven relationship between fluoride and lowering your IQ and drinking water. Okay.
No, drinking water that has very high levels of fluoride, as I said in my opening statement.
What's very high specifically?
Very high is anything above 4 milligrams per liter.
That's not what the paper said. It said above 1.
The paper says that most industrialized areas and industrialized countries don't have levels higher than 1.
You just claimed that it only has effects above 4, but the very analysis, the systematic analysis we're talking about was about above 1. So would you like to revise your claim? Would you like to revise? Wait, stop interrupt. You're not going to censor your way out of this, bro.
I'm not.
Would you like to revise your claim that actually even over 1 milligram per liter has a direct relationship between IQ?
Do you want to look at the data?
That's what we just did. We just did. That's
that was a summary of a meta-analysis. I actually
meta-analysis was done by Harvard.
A meta-analysis. Yes, I understand from Harvard. Yes, I don't.
It was 27 studies, so there were actually way more studies. But Harvard has a specific standard of the studies, so they actually rated them from the most strenuous down into 3 groups. 3 meta groups.
Right.
Did you actually look into this?
Yes, that's a typical meta-analysis.
So at the top, they had 27 that made the internal cut for Harvard. 26 of the 27 studies showed a direct relationship between IQ and fluoride, and it wasn't extremely high amounts above 4 milligrams. You made that up. You made that up.
Let's look at it then. All right.
Okay, so because we just read it.
Yes. I'm going to share my screen again. because
Okay, now
we're
this
going
is
to
what,
look
wait, I
at
want
it
to make one
again.
more point to the audience. I want to make one more point. So what happened was, then the result was, okay, the average of all those 26 studies was roughly 0.46 a standard deviation of IQ. Harvard then said, oh, it's only 0.46 of an IQ point, so it's negligible. And then they had to be corrected and come out, oh, no, it's 0.46 of a standard deviation, which would be around 7 IQ points. And they updated their paper to say, oh, it's just 7 IQ points. That's not, it has no practical significance. Now, let me say to the audience, if you had a population that dropped by 7 IQ points, do you know how significant that would be? Some people may be thinking, oh, there's just a child that dropped 7 IQ points. Or if we'll do 5 IQ points, 100 to 95. You wouldn't even be able to tell a difference with a child. 100 IQ, 95, would the parents even be able to tell? Now, this is the reason it's important. If you go to the higher end of the IQ, around 130, where we consider people to be extremely intelligent, some even call that a genius IQ, right? If we take off 5 points off the whole population, we lose half our genius population. If you go to the other end, half of our genius population. If you go to the other end, the lower end, which goes below 70, which is where you basically need help, right? We would actually increase the amount of children below that 70 IQ threshold by 60%. And that's only 5 points. We're talking about 7 points. So do you agree that if we were to decrease a population's IQ, the US IQ, by 7 points, that would be incredibly detrimental to our country?
I think that a decrease of the overall population by about 70 IQ points would be problematic. That's not what the data shows, however. The data actually shows in that meta-analysis that you have to be exposed to levels that are 5 to 10 times higher than what is found in industrial societies such as the United States, the higher than 1 milligram per liter, in order to have something on the order of around 5 to 7 IQ point drop. That's what the data shows.
Well, actually, they did a
I
study
looked
that
through the
showed
various studies that were cited in the meta-analysis, and that's what
this
that
is in
shows.
2012. Yes.
Yes,
And now it's
right.
2024. And they've actually done studies now where they actually showed as low as 0.2 milligrams in the urine of pregnant women or just given birth women. 0.2, okay, was correlated to a 3.5 to 4 IQ decrease. 0.2.
I don't believe that.
Okay. Well, I have
What's-
all the papers.
Sure. What's the study for that?
Well, I want to know, are you on record, if I'm not misrepresenting the study, you're on record saying that's obviously completely unacceptable. We would immediately need to take all the fluoride out of the water, right?
You're not going to be able to take all the fluoride out of the water because
Oh, so
it's
your
naturally
argument now is
occurring.
even if it's really bad for us and it's lowering the IQ, and I want the audience to know what happens, right? So the breast milk is able to protect a baby from fluoride for the most part, right? The natural amount of fluoride in there isn't that dangerous, okay? But when the baby is in the womb, placenta is not able to block out the fluoride. It is not able to filter it out. And the blood-brain barrier in a child doesn't even develop until they're 6 months of age, as in post-birth 6 months of age, right? So the fluoride goes straight to the baby. So when women are drinking fluoridated water while they're pregnant, it goes directly to the brain of the baby. And they have shown a direct correlation between IQ and between the amount of fluoridation in the water. And we're talking about, if you go to Target and it says like infant water, fluoride added. I thought it was for their teeth. Believe it or not, newborns don't have teeth. Newborns don't have teeth. So if we just, before we get into the weeds, I'm happy to go through all the studies. I want you to answer this question, right?
Sure.
It's proven, you're conceding that it is toxic, that fluoride is toxic. And you're actually disputing that the two different types of fluoride are different and that the natural and synthetic are different. The synthetic is significantly more toxic. And you're, I guess, disputing that it's a waste product that we put in our water. I don't know.
Okay. So
Are you disputing that?
I am. Okay. You're right in that sodium fluoride is something that is typically synthesized. It does occur in nature, but it occurs at much lower levels than calcium fluoride, which is what the compound that you referred to. When we're talking about fluoride, we're talking about it being dissociated. Sodium fluoride is essentially chemically similar and almost identical to sodium chloride, which is table salt. You're talking about a sodium ion and a fluoride ion. Your claim is that it's not the fluoride that's causing the problem, right? Your claim is that it's the toxic elements that are added in with this toxic waste. Is that right? Like lead, for instance.
Well, no. The
No,
sodium
it's not.
fluoride itself is toxic, but also since it's not pharmaceutical grade, right? Then it can have all kinds of other, because it's well known that it leaches other metals.
How is sodium fluoride, when dissolved in solution, any more toxic than
It has a
calcium
way
fluoride.
lower solubility.
Sodium fluoride has a lower solubility
Yes.
than calcium fluoride. Are we talking about concentrations that are well below the solubility?
What?
Are we talking about concentrations that are well below
But
solubility?
you invoke solubility.
You invoked solubility. What are you talking
No,
about?
you just said something about solubility. I pointed out that there's a distinction with solubility.
Yes, you said that there's a distinction between
Want
solubility.
the
What
audience to
difference does
know
it make?
is the fluoride that they add to our water literal waste products from fertilizer and a metal and aluminum industries? Yes or no?
Is fluoride a wastewater product?
Is the fluoride that we add to our water a toxic waste product that comes from the industries of metal and fertilizer manufacturers?
Fluoride, the sodium fluoride, and there are other fluoride compounds that are also used for fluoridation. They are derived from companies that synthesize various chemical products. Yes. And
Okay, so we put waste product in our water. Do you
it's
agree?
not waste product.
What? It's literally
It
the
serves a
EPA
purpose.
has classified it as a toxic waste product.
At sufficient enough
You're
concentration.
not allowed to even let it vaporize or touch the ground according to the EPA guidelines.
Fluoride is quite caustic. We know that. Like if fluoride in very high concentrations comes into contact with certain, like hydrochloric acid is a very, it can have a very level of reactivity with other chemicals that will cause it to be caustic at really high concentrations. At low concentrations, it just doesn't have that effect.
Wait.
At really high
That is
concentrations.
a claim, right?
Yes.
So what you did in your opener and earlier is you flip it around. There's no study to show that the lower sides have any type of toxicity.
Okay.
Actually, that systematic review that was put off and shut down by the NIH, second in charge, that then came out in 2022 in an ongoing federal case, and I will literally pull it up right now. Okay.
Sure.
What he said, you're not allowed to release the study. After 5 years, you're not allowed to release the study. Then they released the study. You know what it says? It says in the study that they were not able to determine any safe amount to be added to water. That there's not a test in existence. Every test that's gone lower and lower and lower has still shown a toxicological relationship. There has never been a study, and even in the review of the most accredited organization that does systematic reviews, they said we cannot say that there is a safety threshold. So when you just made the claim, you just made the definitive claim there is a safety threshold. Can you please provide the study that has shown that at certain levels of the stuff that burns through concrete and can't touch the ground that we put to water for babies? Can you tell me a study that shows a safe amount that all of a sudden it stops being toxic?
I would say Choi 2012, Choi et al. 2012, the one that we're talking about, the meta-analysis that looks at data, the epidemiological data in China, that it clearly shows that there are no significant effects at the levels that we see of fluoridation that's used in the United States. Yes, it is consistent with that fact.
Wait.
The meta-analysis from Choi et al. 2012, this Harvard study that looked at 26 of 27 studies. If you look at the actual data, they show that there is no significant effect of exposure to 1 milligram per liter fluoride.
No, that's not what it shows.
Yes, it does. Did you read that? They had to go to China to find an effect because the levels of fluoride in the water is so high in order for there to actually be an effect.
What's the focus of those studies? What effect? What adverse effect?
Yeah, IQ in children.
Okay. So
because the people there get exposed to wide ranges, and the ones that have high levels, and we're talking about levels that are around 5 to 10 times higher than what we see in the targets that are used for fluoridation in community water systems. 5 to 10 times higher. That's when you start to see an effect.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're saying that because the available data that was studied was higher, showing a relationship, we can then safely assume that at lower levels there is no relationship. That is not what I asked you for. I asked you to provide an actual test.
I have another study.
I asked you to provide an actual test where the lower amounts were shown to be safe. The actual systematic review that was suppressed by the NIH that came out in 2022 showed the exact opposite. The official accredited organization. You're invoking something from 2012 and then actually misrepresenting it. 2022, they came out and said, we have no reliable data to assert any safety threshold. And when they actually tested as low as 0.2, they showed that there was a relationship up to 3.5 IQ points. So I'm confused here.
We're looking at a study that actually gets bandied about by people from your side. I was surprised that you actually didn't include it in your list, because this is the study that's almost always cited as being evidence that there is a.
Did he cut out? Oh, he cut out for you too.
You might have frozen. Dr. Thompson, let me just make sure that you're not on mute, so I'm not sure why. Dr. Thompson, if you can hear me, we can't hear you anymore. There it is.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. It says my internet connection is unstable. Must be all the fluoride in the computer. So, all right. What I wanted to say is that this is the study that is typically cited by your side as showing evidence that that exposure to fluoride decreases IQ. I don't think that this study really shows that very convincingly at all. And one of the things about this is that, like, there's a lot in this study that people just completely ignore. So each of these individual dots is a child with their IQ score and the overall total fluoride intake of mothers during pregnancy. Okay, so per day apparently. What you can see is that the blue dots are from a fluoridated community in Canada, and the gray dots or whatever are from a non-fluoridated community. This shows virtually no relationship whatsoever. Okay, they say statistically that there's some sort of relationship, but they have to lie with statistics for this because they don't actually provide an R-square value. Anyone who knows regression analysis would see that what we're seeing is just a cloud of dots with no real relationship whatsoever.
I didn't invoke this study, man.
Okay, I understand that, but you know what the funny
I
thing about
invoked the
this?
U.S. National Toxicology Program, the most accredited, the number one person in toxicology that you could possibly invoke. That's who I invoked. The most recent 2023 and 2022 review.
Okay. Let's talk about actual data. All right.
Let's talk about actual data. 52 of 55 studies.
Here's the actual data from this study, where there is actually no difference in IQ between fluoridated communities and non-fluoridated communities. You can see that this is the IQ.
I haven't looked at
108 average for non-fluoridated and 108.2 in the fluoridated. There's no statistical difference, but in fact, the actual average is higher in the fluoridated community versus the non-fluoridated.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, but this is what's funny. I don't know anything about that test.
But this is toxic, right? This is toxic waste that these kids are eating.
Okay, this goes into why there's specific standards of the type of test, right? This is a specific thing. When you don't account in all the different variables and you're just like hand picking out different IQs, what? How can you do that? What if there's a couple geniuses have a baby and you throw them in one group, and then you take a bunch of people that aren't very smart having babies? So there are specific controls that are implemented that are required to make it to the specific standard that are considered high-level studies. And I'm going to actually now bring that up because you're bringing up something
No, this is actual data regarding what we're talking about.
What do you think this is?
Okay, well, we're looking at the actual data, and you're talking about that there's maybe an outlier that's driving these data.
No, I'm saying I don't know anything about this study or how they actually determined the controls. And you said a lot of people bring this up.
It's right
you said
here.
A lot of people bring this up. I'm stating facts. Okay, and but after I say this facts, though, I am stating okay. So I'll
understand. I'm showing actual data.
What do you think that this comes from, man? So now I have to if I show my screen, it becomes real. So we'll show my screen because then it'll become real.
Sure.
Okay, now it's real. Now everyone can know it's real. Okay. So there was again an actual lawsuit. Okay, and so let's just read this here. So the U.S. National Toxicology Program, that is the NTP, the number one accredited source. The person I told you about whenever the judge reserved judgment on the lawsuit and was like, no, we need to have them do a systematic review. That was 2017. It took 5 years. As soon as they were like, okay, we're ready to release the results. Then the second in command at the NIH, the deputy, came out and forbid them from publishing the paper. Sounds legit. Do you have any comments on that before we move on?
I don't know enough about it to comment on.
Can you even speculate a reason why a
Sure, I
judge?
can think of all kinds of reasons. I could think that perhaps there was author disputes about who should be first author versus second author or third author. I can imagine that maybe there wasn't consensus among the people and the participants that were doing this analysis.
Wouldn't that just
and that they
be
couldn't
inside the
agree.
systematic review? Wouldn't that all be? That's what systematic reviews are.
I don't know this study, so I can't
Okay.
comment
Anyway,
upon it.
so the audience can obviously see it's an obvious reason why they would do that. The same reason they suppressed the information about lead for years. So anyway, they literally suppressed it, and then okay. So the 7-year systematic review on fluoride's neurotoxicity is the most comprehensive study yet conducted. The report found that quote 52 of 55 studies found lower IQ with higher fluoride exposures, demonstrating remarkable consistency. Of the 19 studies rated higher quality, 18 found lowering of IQ. The meta-analysis could not detect any safe exposure. Okay, now your claim was that you knew it had been proven there was safe exposure. This is, of course, the most comprehensive study ever by the most accredited toxicological resource that you could possibly invoke in a federal lawsuit that was then shut down and suppressed by the NIH. And then the report was blocked from publication by top U.S. health officials, but due to pressure from the judge in the historic TSCA fluoride
Austin,
lawsuit,
you've already
it was made
settled this.
available. It was made available to the attorneys in the trial. So the attorneys actually had to file motions to get it.
You're
And it was
repeating
made public.
yourself. You understand that. We've gone over this.
I was almost done. So the attorneys actually had to fight to get it. And then only then was it released. And what it actually shows is a direct correlation with IQ across the board. And unlike what you just falsely claimed to the audience, they say that the meta-analysis could not detect any safe exposure. Now let's just use common sense here. We know that there has been a relationship with IQ that has actually been established. We know that this is such a toxic waste product that literally it's illegal for the EPA says it's illegal for them to let it touch the ground or to vaporize. They have to immediately wrap it up in little nets. It's that toxic. And literally they had nothing to do with it. They had no idea what to do with this. So they're like, oh, we'll just throw it in the water. Okay. And then the people that push for fluoridated water, they don't actually distinguish between the naturally derived fluoride and the literal waste product that says immediately go to poison control if your child eats a pea size of it. Okay. And then this is the major part here. Now, there's no evidence. You have the burden of proof. You're claiming there is a safe amount. You have the burden of proof.
Right.
Now, again, in the most recent data of the meta-analysis of everything, it says that doesn't exist. There isn't even available evidence for us to be able to say that there is a safe exposure level. Okay. So what you claim was false. You still have the burden of proof. And you still have the burden of proof. But even more than this, now, if we know all the evidence points towards this being toxic, you're admitting it's toxic. You're just saying it's not so toxic. You don't think it would be that bad at lower levels and that it's worth it. And you're claiming the benefit of your teeth. Okay.
Yes.
Now, do you agree that fluoride's alleged teeth decay benefit is based on topical application only?
No, I do not.
So you disagree with the CDC?
I disagree with whatever your interpretation of what the CDC says. I don't know that specific link that you point to, but I just showed data that when you remove fluoride from drinking water systems, such as in Calgary, that there's a doubling of dental decay problems in those cities. And it's not just Calgary. We've seen this in numerous cities, Juneau, Buffalo, many communities that have decided to take their fluoride out of their water. They see an increase in dental decay, and then they reverse that. Israel actually did this as well. They almost removed all fluoride from water systems in Israel, like about 15 years ago. And then they saw a big increase in dental decay in children. So they decided to put it back in.
I just
see this pattern.
I just showed
over
entire
again.
countries.
Yes.
From 1970 to 2000.
But let's talk about that.
Wait.
Yes.
Tooth decay trends in entire countries that were fluoridated versus non-fluoridated, they all went down over time, right?
Why do you think that they would have gone down?
Oh, it's not because there was fluoride in their water, because
true. In some countries, it's not. And I don't think that we necessarily have to put fluoride in the water. There could be an alternative.
The reason that we put fluoride in the water, bro, is because the major companies have nowhere else to put their waste products.
That's
let me ask you a very simple question.
It's totally not true.
Let me ask you a very simple question.
Like I can assure you that sodium fluoride can be managed by these companies.
But where would they put it?
It's not that hard to deal with waste like that.
Where would you put it?
It really isn't.
Where would you put it?
Oh my God. All right.
Name one place you can put it.
You can store it. You can keep, yes, absolutely. You can store it.
Just store it in
Yes.
like buckets forever is your argument?
Sure. It's not that hard. Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
so now if there's a company that
You're
says
telling
they
me
have
that
to
it's
act-
so
wait
toxic
a-
that it just has to be dumped in
now
drinking
let
water?
me ask you a question. If there are major companies that either A, they make tons of aluminum and fertilizer and they have to store infinitely store their waste product in giant warehouses over time, just building
Yes.
up just billions of pounds of waste products.
This
They just have to
happens all the
store it
time.
forever. Or option two is they can just use it as a waste product and get rid of it because it's waste. Which one are they going to have a financial incentive to do?
The incentive comes from the fact that there's actually some benefit to using the product.
So you know, and your argument
Yes.
is like you're like, yeah. Can you at least?
I agree that this is a side product of industrialization processes, right? They're not actually like going out and like synthesizing sodium fluoride for the sole purpose of fluoridation. I agree with
No,
that.
of course not.
Yes,
It's
right.
money.
Because it's a side
about
product.
money.
No, but this happens in chemistry all the time. Most like chemicals that get used in various processes are the result of side products from other chemical processes.
Dude, this stuff burns through concrete, bro. Why are you putting it in water? And let me ask you a question. You know, if you go and you look at infant water and it says fluoride added. Okay. And the benefit of fluoride in the water is for their teeth.
I don't know about fluoride water that for infants. I haven't seen that.
So, okay. But so you would agree that having fluoride given to infants when there is a direct correlation to IQ. And by the way, the only things that have really been studied is in pregnant women.
That's
so we're not talking about an actual baby, because when you go to Target or wherever and look for the water specifically set aside for baby formula. It's called infant water.
Sure.
It says fluoride added. No, so you agree that that's evil? And
no, I don't. I don't think that it's evil.
But you just said it was only for teeth.
It's for teeth. Yes,
But
that's why we
have
add
teeth,
fluoride
though.
to drinking water.
Babies don't have teeth, though.
Babies do eventually grow teeth. Yes.
So they need to drink the fluoride before they have teeth?
They don't. It doesn't matter. That's the point.
It doesn't matter.
No,
that we're
it really
giving
doesn't.
Toxics to.
It's not toxic.
So, it's not toxic now.
No, at these concentrations, it's not toxic.
But how come I'll repeat for the 15th time now, the actual accredited source, the most reliable source from within, you claim to be a toxicologist. Do you know who
I am a toxicologist.
Do you know who the U.S. National Toxicology Program is?
Yes, I do know what the U.S. National Toxicology Program is. It's a very large.
Do you think they're wrong?
I haven't read the study, so I don't actually know what that report says.
Meta-analysis could not detect any safe exposure. That's 2022.
Sure, that could be because you actually have to do a bunch of different additional things in order to establish a safe exposure, right?
So, but why are you claiming you know that there's a safe exposure limit?
I'm saying that there is it's clear that if you have water from a fluoridated system, and if you have children that are raised on fluoridated water systems, that it does not result in any detectable ill effect that we know of.
That isn't true. We've only covered one of them. 52 of the 55 studies.
That's not true.
52 of the 55 studies found lower IQ with fluoride exposures. Of the 19 studies rated higher quality, 18 found lowering of IQ.
Right. And we're talking about studies from China where they have high levels.
That is only a small list. No, it isn't only small levels. And that's only a small list. Because literally it's the context of them trying to decide about fluoridation in the water. That's what the entire lawsuit's about. You're claiming they're so incompetent that they're saying there's a relationship that has nothing to do with anything. That's incorrect. That's why it's being suppressed. But this is just so you guys know, it's not just IQ. That isn't the only thing that it results in. It results in many health effects. Let's list some of them. Okay, it calcifies your pineal gland. It negatively affects your kidney function. You're laughing about that. And by the way, it's been proven that it calcifies your pineal gland, which directly affects your hormonal regulation. It also negatively affects kidney function. Quotes. A fairly substantial body of research indicates that patients with chronic renal insufficiency are at an increased risk of chronic fluoride toxicity. These patients may develop skeletal fluorosis even at 1 ppm fluoride in the drinking water. Dr. Helmut Schiff. What say you?
I'd have to look at those data, but I have not seen any evidence that you can have skeletal fluorosis at
It's
1 parts per
convenient that
million.
you've never seen any of the evidence.
There's very little data there's no data indicating that there you can see significant fluorosis of bone loss at those levels. There's no data showing that.
You just keep
I know
saying
you just read a quote.
this
Let's
is
talk
such
about
a
let's go back to the
disingenuous.
calcification of the pineal gland.
This is no. This is such a disingenuous tactic. People use the same for vaccines, right? You're like, oh, I'm the one giving the provable toxic poison to your children, but I don't need to prove that there's a safe amount. I don't need to do studies and say, look, here, if we actually do it, it's safe. What you have to do is prove that it's unsafe at the smallest amounts. Yeah, you get to give our children.
No, you have to use it at levels at which you don't detect any problems.
You get to give our. No, it's not that we don't. You keep making positive claims about how we don't detect any problems. Then when I ask you for the evidence for it, you say, I need to prove that there's a certain amount that all of a sudden it is still dangerous. And just so the audience knows, they did the same exact thing with titanium dioxide. They used to say, no, the amount that's put in gum and Skittles and stuff, that's safe. That's safe. Now they have actually had to walk that back, and it's being removed from everything because it's proven that and this is the reason they were able to say that for so long is because there were no actual studies going in super small amounts that were actually trying to isolate a relationship. And when they did it, guess what they found? That the smallest amounts of titanium dioxide, that it had incredibly negative toxicological effects, certainly on pregnant women and in developing fetuses, and that it was incredibly bad for neural development. And then they had to remove it. Right. And even it was carcinogenic. Now, if you're going to put something in our water supply, then you need to prove that it's safe. You don't get to say there's a magical threshold.
And it's been done over and over again.
And let me say one more thing.
Austin, do you know, it has been done over and over again. We just looked at studies.
I want to ask you a question. I'm going to give it back to you because I just talked a lot.
Sure.
Okay. But do you know the actual amount that was determined in like 1980? Do you know that what the safe amount determined in the United States was?
For the safe amount determined in the United States, I think probably, I don't know exactly what it was, but I think that it was what, 1.5 milligrams per liter?
4.0.
Okay, yeah, that was the EPA. Yes, the EPA, and they still have it at that.
Right,
the CDC revised it to 1.5 sometime later. But the target is, no, the EPA says that like exposures above 4, that's when we see, that is the level at which we certainly see toxicological effects. But they knew long ago before that the target should be around 0.7 to 1.2. That was the established target.
First of all, that's not what they said.
When you read these old studies, hold on, let me finish. When you read these old studies, it's clear that the target, and they knew that the safety profile of fluoride in water at very high levels would have certain problems. But at 0.7 to 1.2, there were no issues. They knew that back in 1938. They knew that back in 1945 when they first introduced fluoridation. They knew that in the 50s with the follow-up studies where they see no ill effects whatsoever. And we still see it today. I just showed you a study showing that there is no difference in IQ scores in kids raised on fluoridated water versus kids raised on non-fluoridated water. The only thing that this study seems to indicate is that they find a very dubious relationship with doing a whole bunch of statistical gymnastics in order to find it. But you can see a cloud of data, and when you compare the two groups, there's no difference. In fact, the IQ scores are higher in the kids in the fluoridated systems than the non-fluoridated systems.
No, see, this is what you guys do too.
I just showed you the data.
It's what you guys do too. It's so funny, right? So you hand select different cities that recently removed the water, and then you're like, oh, look, trust me, bro. And it's all of a sudden correlation does equal causation, right? When you object, we have the burden of proof here. Now, I want to correct what you're saying, though. I want to correct what you're saying. You said that it's 4.0 because they said over that amount is toxic. No. In fact, even all these organizations now, they say that the permissible amount should be lowered significantly closer to 0.2, and they gave this official request because of the most vulnerable people in the population. And there are many different people that, for example, children have kidney disease, are super susceptible to the effect of fluoride. And you just shake your head, but
I shake my head because it would be impossible to get fluoride levels down to that level.
Let me finish, because you're not even telling the people what the truth is. So 4.0 was the number given in the 80s, right? And they still have that in place to this moment. That was they're like, oh, that is when you'll get skeletal issues. Right? So skeletal issues will come around 4. Now, that's how the mainstream will tell you. No, actually, it was crippling skeletal issues, where it was the most extreme version of it, where you're just hunched over. What happens? And they have not done real studies until recently where they look at the long compounding effects of fluoride on your bones, and it makes your bones so weak that you actually begin to develop skeletal issues. So don't you think you should probably do long-term safety studies before you actually decide to get in, before you claim that there's a safe permissible amount? Because let me ask you a question. If high amounts do it, then wouldn't small amounts over long durations of time also do it?
No, it would not, because
Why not?
fluoride actually it doesn't stay in the system for terribly long. It actually has a relatively low half-life in the system. If you go fluoride free after about 24 hours, that's when you get the half-life. You're not going to detect much fluoride after that. Now,
Oh, your bones absorb it though.
I know, yes, there is some absorbance to bone because that's part of the process. That's part of the
why'd you
reason
leave
why it
that
works in
part out?
mineralization. It doesn't necessarily matter that much because
How does
it's
it not matter? We're
actually
talking about its effect on bones
Yes.
over the course of time.
right. Okay. Look, you
Okay.
mentioned something about calcification of the pineal gland, and that it may
Oh,
affect.
yeah, you want to
Why don't
focus
we
on
talk
that
about
one.
that?
You want to focus on that
Sure.
one.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
No,
because
wait.
there's an increase of there's an increase in calcification of the pineal gland seen over in society since like fluoridation is one of the arguments, right? That like back prior to fluoridation, calcification of the pineal gland was about 15-20% in old people. So let's just get the audience caught up to speed, because this is like a very obscure thing. The pineal gland is like a pea-sized organ in the brain that releases melatonin, and it's important for sleep regulation. The pineal gland, in some circles, is seen as the third eye, and then it somehow is in tuned with the energies of the universe or something along those lines. I don't know. There's no evidence to support that contention.
Okay.
The pineal gland does get calcified over time in individuals, and it varies quite a bit. Around 80 years ago, there were some studies indicating that around 20% of older individuals have calcification, calcite deposits around the pineal gland and just surrounding the pineal gland. And when you do an MRI study, you can see it pop up in old individuals between 50 and 70 years old. What we're finding now is that somewhere between 70%, 80% of individuals now have a calcified pineal gland. And the anti-fluoride folks are claiming that this increase is because they're starting to dump fluoride in the drinking water.
Anti-waste product being put in my water that burns through concrete
Is that your claim?
And causes IQ and skeletal issues, and where people can't even walk, and causes kidney issues, and causes heart issues, and causes thyroid issues, and causes endocrine disruption, and
No
all provable
Let's focus on the pineal gland, okay? Is that your contention?
What?
Do you think the increase in calcification of the pineal gland that we're seeing in individuals is caused by fluoridation?
Yeah, I think that there's enough correlative data, but if you want to dispute it, that's why I said I agreed to move on.
Let's dispute it, because
there hasn't been enough studies done to truly try to establish a causal link. Your entire argument is funny, because what your side does is they stick their chest out.
That was the second thing you said.
Can you let me? Yeah, because I just made a list. I just made a list really quick off the top of my head. Sure. And it's the one that's always said, right? But it does have some evidence behind it. It isn't completely made up. You want to pretend it is, but that's what you guys do. And this is what's funny, right? Your side always sticks their chest out as if the anti-fluoride, you said anti-fluoride folks, right?
Are you anti-fluoride or no?
As if there's no evidence. Dude, there is an overwhelming amount of evidence that this is incredibly toxic. And this is what's so funny. You guys aren't rushing to do the tests. You guys don't rush to do tests.
Okay.
You just try to
We're hearing this again.
You just tried to.
So let's talk about calcification of the pineal gland. The problem with this idea that they were having calcification of the pineal gland.
It's
I know
largely
you're just repeating yourself, but I actually want to give the audience some new information.
I want you to address my points.
Yeah, you're just saying the same thing over and over again.
You're basically asserting without any
evidence. But
I
keep showing you data that it is. The whole reason why we see increasing calcification in the pineal gland, we don't fully know, but we have some good ideas. And studies indicate that what we're seeing is that this is just simply due to like hardening of the arteries and due to a poor Western diet. Part of the reason why we know that is, as you pointed out, there are countries that don't do fluoridation, yet they have an increase in calcification of the pineal gland, the same thing that we're seeing. This has been seen in culture after culture, that cultures that have weight gain and a poor diet actually end up having calcification, just as there's an increase in heart disease and hardening of the arteries. It's the same thing. It's the same process.
Okay, yeah, because there's all kinds of poisons. There's all kinds of poisons being introduced to the thyroid system of everyone at all times now. That doesn't mean you get to then assume that there is no relationship, because what we know is that fluoride is like the most reactive chemical on the periodic charts. And the fact that you didn't bring this up, right, and that you didn't distinguish between the two is the reason I agree to this debate, because this stuff never gets said. So let me point this out to people so you understand what's actually going on before you defend this very profitable practice where people place profit over people and put this toxic in our children's water. Okay, it disrupts the thyroid gland, leading to a decrease in thyroid function. This happens because fluoride more readily competes with iodine for uptake by the thyroid. For one, being the most reactive element on the periodic table, fluoride can intensify the effects of other chemicals when combined with them. A clear example of this is, for example, when Flint, Michigan, all of a sudden having brown water in their and contaminated water in their water supply, because fluoridic acid added to the water caused lead and copper to leach from the pipe, stripping these metals from the plumbing and resulting in polluted water. Now, this is not even disputed. It is well known that fluoride leaches metals and chemicals. It's highly reactive, and he's even it is
I'm
well
denying that.
It
Yes.
is high. It is
because
well
it's not
highly
fluoric
reactive.
acid is not the reactive
Let
part.
me finish.
It's the hydrogen. It's the acidity.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. It's
Yeah.
almost done. All right, but so it's well known that it is highly reactive, and it actually can strip metals, for example, from the pipes. Now, we've largely replaced older pipes because we know that lead is poisonous. The only reason it took so long, by the way, the same type of people that are defending fluoride in the water were defending lead before we admitted that it just like destroys children's brains. But anyway, so there's still some old pipes, like in Flint, Michigan. What a coincidence that the fluoride would strip the copper and the lead, and it happened like overnight. But this is the important part here. Right. So again, the actual fluoride that's added to our water, and I want you to address this specifically, please, is not pharmaceutical grade, which means it has not been refined, which means it is oftentimes combined with all kinds of other toxic chemicals. Again, it's a toxic waste product from different companies. And when it was actually tested, they found arsenic, like lead, mercury, and or maybe not mercury, like 3 or 4 other heavy metals inside of it with the fluoride. So it's not even refined. So do you see a problem with that?
Okay, listen, I work on lead toxicity in the brain. So I know this field very, very well. And I'm very familiar with the whole Flint, Michigan case. That's actually something that happened at Virginia Tech, where I'm a professor. So it was Mark Edwards who worked on that. And is the main person who helped the community there to identify this increased levels of lead that was happening. What was going on there was not because they were adding fluoride to the drinking water and that it was stripping metal out of the community water system. That's not what was happening. The system there was taken over by the governor of Michigan felt that, okay, well, Flint is now bankrupt, so I'm going to put in individuals to just slash public health measures in extraordinary levels. And what they ended up doing is removing corrosion control measures at the community water system. Corrosion control measures are necessary because you have to make sure that the level of acidity in lead pipes doesn't get so low that that's what draws the lead out. It isn't fluoride, it's acidity, and acidity is free hydrogen ions. That is the issue that was pulling the lead out of the water, okay? So it's the acidity, not fluoride.
Fluoridic acid, you mean? Like maybe
yes,
like
fluoridic acid, hydrogen fluoride. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, but that wasn't the only
you're promoting us put in our water.
That wasn't the only acidic compound that was problematic.
It's a major component that you're suggesting we put in our water.
No, we don't add hydrogen fluoride to the water. Sodium fluoride is not hydrogen fluoride. It's very different. Hydrogen fluoride is very caustic.
Acid is literally brought to our water supply treatment facilities.
No, it is not. You are wrong.
Okay.
That is wrong.
What I love about this, you said a lot of stuff on the record.
Hydrofluoric acid is put into our water, is what you're saying.
It's actually used to then add fluoride, sodium fluoride.
No, they use sodium fluoride, not hydrofluoric acid.
Okay.
That is wrong.
It's literally brought. You said that they were the same and that there was no different toxicological effects.
One is an acid. Sodium fluoride is not an acid.
No, okay.
When you add sodium fluoride to water, it does not increase acidity. It doesn't. You're wrong on that.
I don't think I'm wrong on that, but
you are wrong on that. Trust me.
Okay, fluoride's more toxic than lead and only slightly less toxic than arsenic.
That is.
But anyway,
bullshit.
let me.
That is unadulterated bullshit because you can get levels. Yes, let me explain. Because lead is is acutely toxic at around 15 parts per billion. We're talking about levels that are around 100-fold
15
less
parts per million.
per billion. B with a
Oh,
B.
wow.
Yes.
So
Those
where's
are
your
the
study
levels at
that
which we
shows
can
the
see toxic
permissible
effects.
threshold of sodium fluoride?
We're talking about 1 milligram per liter or 1 part per million or 1,000 parts per billion. That's the permissible levels. Those are the
Studies
target
at
levels.
0.2,
And we know that we don't
showed
see
a relationship with
we don't
IQ.
see significant effects until we get up to around 4,000 parts per billion.
No, studies with 0.2 show.
Well, yeah, you're saying 0.2 parts per million. I don't believe that. I don't
0.2
believe
milligram.
Look,
0.2 milligram.
yes,
per
0.2
liter.
milligrams.
Yeah.
Look, the problem is that fluoride is naturally occurring in water sources, and nearly every single water source in the United States has at least 0.2, whether they do fluoridation or not. Because
so we definitely shouldn't be adding more to it. It's certainly not a toxic industrial waste product.
We already know from public health studies that in communities that don't have enough fluoride in their water, that they have increased dental problems.
No, that isn't true.
Yes.
I just showed, no, it isn't. Dude,
okay,
the CDC, please stop interrupting every time I go to respond to you. The CDC themselves they used to act like ingestion was good. And let's just use common sense real fast. If we're ingesting fluoride and we're claiming it's good for our teeth, how would the same amount be good for me as it is for my 2-year-old daughter? What a joke. What an absolute joke that a 400-pound guy needs the same as my 25-pound daughter. Okay, now
Austin, you're not 400 pounds. Come on.
Now I didn't say me. I'm just saying in general. Okay. Like a sumo wrestler gets the same amount as a 2-year-old. Now, this is what I think is funny. They then come out and had to correct it, right? And they're like, okay, actually, there's only real evidence that topical application. Now, that's actually disputed. And it's like actually disputed. There's no true, really good evidence that even topical application of fluoride helps with teeth decay. And this is why he has to say, oh, look at this correlative assumption data over here. Now, let's just grant it. Now there are way better, more effective ways to take care of your teeth. Way better ways than fluoride, provably. But let's just grant that topical application helps. Well, then drinking it isn't going to do anything. It touches your water, touches your teeth for a second. There is not one single study in existence that actually shows scientifically that as you drink water and ingest it systematically, that it actually gives you the benefit of topical application. There is not one in existence. And I can actually tell you the technical terms for it. I forgot the actual technical terms off my head. So it says the CDC themselves have now admitted that the effects are post-eruptive and topically beneficial, not pre-eruptive and systematically, which negates the alleged benefit of water fluoridation altogether. And to define those terms, post-eruptive, that's a CDC study. That's the CDC's findings. Post-eruptive fluoride refers to fluoride exposure that occurs after a tooth has erupted through the gum, like essentially strengthening the enamel through topical application like toothpaste, and vice versa. Again, the CDC themselves have now admitted that the beneficial effects are post-eruptive and topical, not pre-eruptive and systematic via ingestion, which negates the alleged benefit of water fluoridation altogether. And they had to be pressured to do that study for many, many years. And then they did the study, and now it's shown that it requires topical application.
That it requires topical application. No, it does not. Look, there are multiple ways. Look, it's very. Fluoride is one part of the strategy of helping to prevent tooth decay. Okay.
Doesn't
from
work
a
though.
public health perspective. Yes, it does. We have data. I already showed you that it does. And we know that if you remove it from water systems, we see an increase in tooth decay. What do you think explains that? How did Calgary get a doubling in the
I would actually need to look at it and look at all the control variables involved, because you're staking all these very bold claims that could have potentially extremely harmful toxicological effects, which we know they do, by the way. We know they do. So provably they do. And you have no evidence that they don't. And you're saying that super toxic chemicals, all of a sudden they're stopped being toxic or whatever. But this is the reality, right? Is that it's profitable for these huge industries to throw that in the water. And I just now pointed out, the CDC themselves said the whole sales pitch for why we put the fluoride in the water in the first place, right? The waste product, again, it's literal waste product that burns through concrete. The reason that we put that in our water to give to our children is because it supposedly helps with teeth, even before they have teeth. Allegedly, I guess, before they even have teeth, even though we know that children are the most susceptible with no blood-brain barrier to like neurological issues. Okay, but long story short, the whole argument has been refuted by the CDC themselves. They don't develop a blood-brain barrier until 6 months. So
they have a working blood-brain barrier before that. Trust me.
No, they do not fully develop. They do not
It's not fully developed, of course, but there is a
so it's
blood-brain
very
barrier.
susceptible to whatever it is introduced.
You said
such
no
as
blood-brain
chemicals.
barrier.
Yeah,
Okay.
meaning it's not actually developed yet.
It's
Okay.
not fully developed, but it's there. And it's still working.
Okay, yeah. So think about what you're doing. You're saying like,
Okay.
oh,
I don't
well,
know. Sure.
oh, well, with infants that can kind of get some, kind of have a brain that can kind of protect itself, it's good enough. They don't have teeth, but we should give them fluoride. But this is the point I want to make. They have come out and said that, again, the idea of systematic application via ingestion has no proven benefit on tooth decay.
That's wrong.
The
I already
CDC
showed those studies. I understand that you're reading something from some CDC. I actually showed data that ingestion of fluoride. I showed data that ingestion of fluoride leads to benefit that basically decreases the incidence of tooth decay by about twofold.
I'm just going to drop truth bombs on the audience so you guys also know. Because there's something else that fluoride on the teeth do. It actually causes teeth fluorosis, which is incredibly bad for the teeth.
It's not. Why is it bad?
Teeth fluorosis isn't bad for the teeth. I hope that people just clip the claims you're making. They're absolutely absurd. So teeth fluorosis is obviously detrimental to your teeth, and because it actually decreases the enamel life. It actually has effects.
It actually increases enamel life.
So you're wait. Just to clarify, teeth fluorosis is good. Okay.
Look, teeth fluorosis. Hold on, let me explain. It's not doesn't have any negative health effects. Fluorosis. If you have
it has negative teeth effects.
It has an appearance effect. People don't like the way it looks, and I understand that.
Okay, and let me actually read. The magnitude of fluoridation's effect is not large in absolute terms. It is often not statistically significant and may not be of clinical significance. That's Ontario Ministry of Health regarding fluoride. Dental fluorosis is the technical term, right? Common sense should tell us that if poison circulating in a child's body can damage the tooth-forming cells, then other harm is also likely. Dr. John Collowin. So if we actually look here, I have the data if you want the data, but this is the point I was about to make.
Sure, I do want the data. Yeah, please.
Fluorosis is a defective tooth enamel caused by too much fluoride intake during the first 8 years of life. Although fluorosis can be cosmetically treated, the damage to the enamel is permanent. You just called my bluff on that. You were wrong.
It's not damage.
Common causes of fluorosis include fluoridated drinking water, particularly during infancy, ingestion of fluoride toothpaste, use of fluoride tablets, and consumption of processed food made with fluoridated water. Now, here is really strong correlative data for that. Dental fluorosis rates in the United States in adolescents, because again, this is up to 8. So we have like 1950, 10%. Now 1960, 1950, 1960 is when they start really pumping out fluoride in our water. Okay. Sure. Now we're going to bump up to 1980, 23%. Bump up to 2000, 41%, up to 2004. And then 2015, 2016, 70%.
Right. Dental fluorosis is simply the fluoride compound that's found within the teeth. And if you have sufficient enough crystallization in the mineral, then you can actually see it. And it does obviously maybe have like an appearance problem, right? Like people don't necessarily want to have the spotting that occurs with fluorosis. And that may be at levels that are too high. We do know that fluorosis does happen when levels are too high. Because it is high naturally. This is the problem.
It can cause them to erode and crumble. So there are different. There are very
sufficiently high levels. It can cause significant problems. Yes.
So all of a sudden, the very thing they claimed that they were going to actually solve and help us with, which was the health of our teeth, teeth decay, has increased significantly, specifically because of the very thing they put in our water. They've now come out and admitted it only has any alleged benefit topically. And actually, we've seen that dental fluorosis has shot through the roof proportionate to the actual increase in fluoride in our water.
And fluorosis, what they mean, most of those cases is just simply an appearance issue. It's not actually a functional issue. Yeah, you're wrong on that. You are totally wrong on that. Are you really telling me that 71% of kids are having crumbling teeth in the country?
because what it does is
71% of the kids have their teeth falling out of their mouths right now.
Straw man. It irreparably damages their enamel, and then over the course of their life, right? The teeth are more susceptible to damage and erosion over the course of their life because they have irreparably destroyed and damaged the enamel. And the reason that's the reason that it's isolated within the first 8 years, because you're actually developing your teeth at adolescence. Right. So that sets up your teeth's ability to protect themselves the rest of their lives. And so even moderate over the course of long studies have shown that you are more prone to things like tooth decay and erosion. And then the more extreme versions, yes, literal children's teeth are falling out. And specifically because of the fluoridation in the water. How hilariously
You're making
ironic
that
is
up.
that?
Their
How
teeth
hilariously
are literally falling out. You're saying that we've been doing fluoridation for
in extreme
70
cases of dental
years.
fluorosis, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. In extreme cases, yes, when fluoride levels are much higher than what we actually put in
So
fluoridated
fluoride
systems.
actually hurts your teeth.
No, at really high levels it does. Again,
no. This is just in the US, just fluoridated water, bro.
it's not just fluoridated water. There are communities in the United States where there are very high levels of fluoride because of naturally occurring fluoride.
Because of people like you 40 years ago that were saying there's nothing wrong with it, it's great for our teeth. And by the way, dude, you have the burden of proof to show that somehow this extremely toxic chemical that again burns through concrete, there's a safe amount. And I just want to, I know I keep repeating this, but you just keep hand wave dismissing it. But the top toxicological organization that was forced by court order to actually do a systematic review of the data, took 5 years and came out and said that there is no safe threshold that can be determined. No safe threshold that can be
established with the data that they had from
then
those studies.
The data that they had was the same data you invoked.
Yes, but we have done safety profiles of fluoridation water systems in the United States for decades. There's no evidence that, no, hold on. Yes, we have. There's no evidence of substantial ill effects or any detectable effects when there's fluoridation that occurs. I showed data, right? There was Green et al. 2019 that supposedly is supposed to show that it actually has negative effects on cognition. But in fact, what we see is that IQ levels in children that are raised in fluoridated communities actually have no difference, and in fact the average is in fact a little bit higher than it is in non-fluoridated communities.
Well, it's so ridiculous that you keep saying that when it's you admit that at higher levels that there's a direct, very serious negative effect on IQ.
Really,
then why would you ever talk about it supposedly getting higher? And I need you to calm down because what you keep doing is I'm like, you're claiming that you have evidence that
you have such a calming effect.
You're claiming that you have evidence that at lower levels that it's safe and doesn't have toxicological effects. Then I point out that the actual most accredited organization specifically for toxicological studies that were told to do that by a court order came back 5 years later and said that that is not the case. And the very data that they looked at is the data that you're invoking. And they said there is no evidence to support the claim of a safe threshold of water fluoridation. And you're claiming that there is, and you're going all the way back to 2012, and this is 2022. Again,
well, this is 2019 actually is what I'm looking at.
No, they released the paper in 2022.
I understand that, but this is 2019, and I assume since it's a meta-analysis that it's retrospective, so it's dependent upon previously published studies, including the Choi et al. 2012 and Green et al. 2019.
Of course, what you invoked, you actually invoked 2012 to show why it was safe, and ironically, they show that it wasn't safe. And so then what you always do, every time I point this out, every time I point this out, what you end up responding with is, there's no proof that it's dangerous. So you shift the burden of proof every single time when you have the burden of proof, because I know it's a toxic chemical. I know infants don't have teeth. I know that the brain of children is very, very susceptible to neurotoxins. We know it's a neurotoxin. You're claiming that, it doesn't matter at certain levels. And then I'm asking you,
what data shows that it's a neurotoxin?
You attack my children with neurotoxins so that you can help giant industries get rid of their waste product. And then every time I ask for your evidence, you shift the burden back to me and say, there is no evidence that it's unsafe. So I have to prove your claim false before you can prove it's true, even though all the evidence in the world has shown there's a direct correlation between kidney failure, kidney diseases, IQ neural development issues, heart issues, skeletal issues, all kinds of neural development issues. Like, all the evidence shows that fluoride is incredibly bad for us in many ways. We only scratched the surface of the stuff that is admitted, and then somehow I'm supposed to prove that there isn't a safety threshold. Like, you need to prove there is one.
The data shows that that if you have fluoride in drinking water that is 5 times or 10 times higher than what we typically do for fluoridation in the United States, that's when you start to see some toxicological effects. Yes, that is what the data shows. That is what that meta-analysis shows. Hold on, don't interrupt me, please. That is what that meta-analysis shows from 2012. And we just looked at Green et al. 2019, where we looked at specifically cognitive effects in children. There was no significant difference between fluoridated communities and non-fluoridated communities. This result has been seen over and over and over again. Fluoridation simply just raises the level of fluoride within drinking water to levels that are seen naturally in many communities across the United States. The public health systems early on in the 20th century saw that there was variation in tooth decay in these communities. And they went out and figured out that, okay, it looks like some of these communities have higher levels of fluoride than others naturally. So why don't we try it and put the fluoride in the water? And then we find that, in fact, in those communities, there is a 2 to 3 times decline in tooth decay that occurs. Okay, Austin, let me try to reach some sort of consensus with you. I actually don't think that we have to do fluoridation, because you are right in that there are countries that don't do fluoridation and they have dental health outcomes that are similar to the United States. Denmark is an example. Belgium is an example. They've never done fluoridation. Now, back when the United States started to do fluoridation, we actually had much better dental health outcomes. Back in the 60s and 70s, our health outcomes got much better than Denmark and Belgium and other European
No,
countries.
Denmark's number one in the world. And they
Yes,
have
I
no
know. I
water
agree.
fluoride
Right now, they are number one in the world. Do you know why?
because they don't have dental fluorosis.
No, that's not why.
And Germany's number 2, no water
Yes,
fluoridation.
well, actually, Germany
United Kingdom's only
has
10%
there are
of the
communities
fluor-
in Germany that do fluoridation, and there are many communities that don't. They go back and forth on it. But you're right. Denmark has never done fluoridation.
Germany's
Now, however,
largely
look,
unfluoridated. United Kingdom's number 3, and
What
10% of the population has fluoridation. So
What percent
actually
of-
out of the top 10, 7 out of the top 10 countries reject water fluoridation, and it takes it to top 2 spots.
Sure. What percent of
Why did those
children-
countries reject
what
the water
percent of-
fluoridation?
Yeah, so what percent of children in the United States see a dentist at least once a year?
Okay, I get it. You're going to say that they go to the dentist more often. Okay, cool. So why did those countries reject water fluoridation?
Because they used a different system to do it.
No.
Yes,
What was
because they have socialized medicine where they have easy access to dentists. Yes, in Denmark, more
That's
than
not their official
99%.
reason.
Hold on, don't interrupt me, please.
making
More than
this up.
99% of kids in Denmark are able to see a dentist, and they go and see the dentist at least once a year. In the
what's
United
up.
States, it's less than 50% because
the
they have
official
socialized
reason?
medicine and we don't. And
What's
I
the-
would be okay with removing fluoride from the water if we could institute an
I'm sure
actual
you would.
socialized medicine system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then we
so
could
that we
stand in
can
line for
actually-
17 hours to get poor subpar healthcare, and then we would
Dude,
no
I
longer
have
be
had to wait
we would never
months to
we
come
would
see
no
a doctor
longer
in
be
the United States.
bro. We would no
Huh?
longer be 70% of the medical innovation in the world. And the reason that that's the case is because of privatization. But I don't want to have to smoke you in another debate right now, because right now
Please.
I'm pointing out that 7 out of 10 countries, bro, 7 out of 10 countries, you can't even say this with a straight face. You know it's ridiculous, and I want to know what I want to answer it. Actually, the reason that they turn it down is because they know that it has toxicological effects.
That's not true. Yeah.
Oh, these countries and states and different places that have turned it down, they haven't specifically articulated officially and publicly that they turn it down because of toxicological effects. Are you sure you want to stamp that claim?
It isn't necessary because they have decided that their fluoride treatment strategy is to see the dentist enough so that they
But
actually can get.
they've officially rejected it.
They have a socialized
toxicological-
healthcare system, which I think is a fabulous system. That I think that if we did in the United States, if we could actually tax the billionaires like Elon Musk,
This is
David
such
Sachs,
a
and Peter Thiel, and if we could
They
tax
get
the
taxed,
millionaires like Donald Trump,
They get
and
taxed,
RFK
bro.
Jr., right? But if we could tax them more, then we could actually institute a
We
socialized
should have no
healthcare system
taxes. We
where
should
we
have no
can.
taxes.
Okay. All
We
right.
should have tariffs. So anyway,
Tariffs. Okay.
I knew that would trigger you. Look, here's the deal, man.
I can't wait to pay more for
The
everything.
people need to know the truth, though. 98% of Europe does not add fluoride to its water. They're fine.
That's not
7
true.
out of 10 top countries with the best ranking in terms of dental. And by the way, DMFT is what that's measuring, and that stands for average decayed, missing, and filled and permanent teeth. Okay. And he's saying it's because they go to the dentist more. The point is that 7 out of 10 of the top countries, the top 2, don't add fluoride to the water. That there's a huge difference in the synthetic and the natural one. Many countries have banned water. Many countries have not just rejected fluoridation, but outright banned it. China, Israel, Japan, Sweden, and others. The most notable and recent examples come from Israel, where around 70% of its population was drinking fluoridated water until Israeli authorities introduced a countrywide ban in 2014, which has stayed put to this very day, and that was 2021. You're claiming they're now
They have now reinstituted.
Yeah, maybe they're about to do it. Maybe they're about to do it again because they're all like
They
5
did.
years
Yes.
anyway. So
In
what's
fact,
it matter?
The
What's it matter,
study
right?
that I showed in my introduction is an Israeli study from 2022 where they are now introducing fluoridation again because they realize that there's an increase in dental decay. Once again,
Even though the
in
evidence
Israel.
shows that
Yes,
that
in
is
Israel,
real.
that happened again, man. It did, like every single community that does this, where they remove fluoridation, they don't have sufficient dental care for their population, they find an increase in dental decay. This is what we
You
see
know,
in the
what an
United
actual
States.
good
This is
study
what
would
we
be?
see. This is what we see in the United States. This is what we see in Canada. This is what we've seen in Israel as well. Like
We don't
fluoridation
see that in
can
every
confer
place in the United
benefit.
States that doesn't have fluoride water. That's a lie. That is not true.
There are places that don't do fluoridated water in the United States. Yes, there are plenty
No,
of
but I
places.
said we don't see that in every one of those places. That is not true. We do not
The
see
state that
worse
has the highest
number
dental decay in
one
the United States is
variable.
Hawaii, and they don't do artificial fluoridation.
The number one variable is socioeconomic status. And this is why I said when you don't account for actual control variables, and of course, that is, you would have to concede to that point based on your previous argument that the reason that these other countries that ban fluoride are way better than us is because of socialized healthcare, meaning access to the dentist, right? So obviously, socioeconomic variables in America would directly play a role in whether or not someone could go to the dentist consistently. So that is that. See, you see how if you remove that control variable of socioeconomic variables and factors, and then you say, look at this city, it's not a proper way to do it.
It is
whatsoever.
a proper way to do it because they do control for economic control factors. The study that I showed in my introduction,
it shows
showing
that
Calgary versus Edmonton, where there was an increase in Calgary versus Edmonton over the same time period in 20. This was a study published in 2024, showed that there was a doubling of dental decay in children that were in Calgary. From when they removed fluoridation, okay? And they compared that to Edmonton. They're talking about the entire community. That all of that obviously is controlling for socioeconomic factors.
Okay, and I guess because we've probably been on it going a while, I don't know, but I want to read this other thing because people don't realize how bad this stuff is. They're repeating in the chat the amount that's publicly used is safe, and it's such a lie, and it makes me mad.
Yeah.
Although skeletal fluorosis has been studied intensely in other countries for more than 40 years, virtually no research has been done in the U.S. to determine how many people are afflicted with the early stages of this disease, particularly the preclinical stages. That's chemical and engineering news. But if you actually look into it, the other countries found that there is a direct relationship, but in the U.S. that the health authorities insisted that the skeletal fluorosis cannot develop unless a person ingests 20 milligrams of fluoride per day over 10 years. The U.S. health authorities now concede, however, that skeletal fluorosis can occur at doses as low as 10 milligrams a day. And it's got all the sources here. This revised estimate, however, itself is outdated, as recent research has shown that doses as low as 6 milligrams a day can cause early stages of this disease. Another error, I won't just keep reading, but look at this. Studies in India and China have repeatedly documented skeletal fluorosis at levels as low as 0.7 to 1.5 ppm fluoride. Even studies in the United States, despite being small in scope, have reported advanced skeletal fluorosis in kidney patients at 1.7 ppm.
Austin, how much water would you have to drink?
And crippling skeletal fluorosis at 2.2 to 3.5.
Austin, how much water would you have to drink if the water is at 1 ppm? How much water would you have to drink to ingest 10 milligrams per day?
I don't know.
10 liters.
Oh, I didn't hear what you said with one. Obviously,
at 1 part per 1 part per million, which is at or above the target, because the target is 0.7 milligrams.
Oh, but this study just says it shows below 6.
So you'd have to drink 10 liters. Yes, 6 milligrams. Yes, 6 milligrams. In order to consume 6 milligrams of fluoride, you would have to drink about 6 liters.
No, not at 1.7 ppm.
1.7 is already higher than the vast majority of all water systems within the United States. 99% of water systems in the United States maintain their fluoride levels at 1.2 or less, and half of them are actually less than 0.7.
Okay, but this goes back.
There's only 2 out of there's only 2 out of 1,798. There was a recent study that was done in this. There's an article on this in CNN. You can go check it out. I'm sure you don't trust CNN, but that's fine. But
of course I don't trust CNN. It's just the CIA.
Yes, it's the CIA. So, but what they showed, they went through and looked at all the public water systems and looked at the amount of fluoride that's found in these public water systems. They looked at 1,798, if I'm remembering the total number. They found 2 that were reporting levels that were higher than 1.5. And out of 1,798, most of them were 1.2 or less, and half of those were even less than 0.7. So in order to consume enough water to get 10 milligrams in your system to cause fluorosis, you would have to drink at least 10 liters of water, which is what? That's like 3 gallons? You would die
I got to respond to this.
Overdose.
I got to respond to this. Okay.
You would die
so originally
from
they
water
said
overdose.
20, then they moved
You can't
to
drink
10.
3 gallons in a day.
Originally they said 20, then they moved it to 10. Now it's at 6. Obviously, 6 milligrams a day is going to be based on how much is in the water itself, right? So
6 liters.
we range from the number's supposed to be aimed at around 0.7. We have places in America that are significantly higher than that, but this is just for crippling sclerosis or whatever it's called, fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis, crippling, which is like it's described pretty well, right? Crippling. Okay, now this is the part though, and this is where the original number for 4 came from. So we've discovered that 4 number, that 4.0 the EPA put out in the 80s, that's still like that today, that was grossly wrong. And the number can be way less than 4.0 and cause crippling skeletal fluorosis. Now we're talking about just the early onset. These are the numbers that the lower numbers to give you the early onset. Now imagine your bones absorbing these throughout the course of your life, certainly when your skeletal structure is still developing. Okay. And there's been not one legitimate independent study that has actually taken the long-term effects of this different relationship between fluoride and skeletal fluorosis and looked at it. And we have arthritis through the roof. We have skeletal fluorosis through the roof. In relation to the past, it's all increasing significantly. We have dental fluorosis through the roof. And obviously we have all kinds of health issues all across America. And our IQ has dropped. American IQ has dropped. All kinds of issues in America. And you're going to say it has nothing to do with the fact that, like, I don't know, I would like to end this with some type of agreement on that. Like, if a child doesn't have teeth, we shouldn't give fluoride to them, right?
I wouldn't agree with that, no. But I could see, I think that what we could agree on is that fluoridation wouldn't necessarily be required if we could have proper dental care in the United States. Would you agree with that?
I'm not a big fan of like your typical dentist. There are base dentists though. Yeah.
Yeah, and should they be available to everyone?
Yeah, maybe so.
Do you think everyone should, if we could have a system where every
I like a mix,
child,
yeah, like a mixed system.
whatever, sure.
Would never
but we
eliminate
ensure that
privatization,
every
it's
single
just
child
stupid.
could see a dentist at
I
least
don't
once
want
a
to
year.
debate. I would never debate. I would never remove privatization. It's stupid, and we would lose innovation, and it would increase the amount of time it takes to get to the doctor, and it would decrease the quality and efficacy. Objectively, you have to keep privatization.
We have a
Care is
private
okay.
system here, and only less than 50% of kids get to see the dentist per year. And it's tragic.
Okay, well, I'm that's what's up. I think most dentists are. I don't want to be ugly here, but they place profit over people, and they'll keep pushing this fluoride lie. And the evidence is that the topical application isn't even truly beneficial, and that ingestion via systematic isn't actually in any way correlative to helping prevent tooth decay. So the very argument for ingesting water ingesting fluoride in our water has been proven, even admitted by the CDC, to not be the way that fluoride helps. There are natural alternatives to even there are natural alternatives to even topical. Okay, I was just so on its face, your entire argument gets dismissed, has been nullified, and then you're just saying, no, look, this city got rid of it, and I swear their teeth got worse. It's like, no, dude, it's on its face, it's ridiculous because the claim isn't true. It's been disproven.
Okay, so obviously it hasn't been disproven. I showed the actual study. There's a citation in there. Anyone can rewind this and go look at the actual study.
You
don't just have to take my word for it. You could read the study and see that when Calgary removed fluoride from their drinking water, that there was an increase, and it's not the only study. There were multiple studies that showed an increase in dental decay for children and other people in Calgary after they removed fluoride.
And they can see that 7 out of the world's top 10 dental countries don't have fluoride in the water, and
with
that it's
excellent socialized healthcare systems. Yes,
the pregnant, and you should definitely agree that the most susceptible people, like pregnant women and infants and babies and people and children with kidney disease and stuff like that, it is overwhelming evidence that they should not be consuming fluoride in their water. No one in the audience should be consuming fluoride in their water. Bro, brush your freaking teeth. You don't even need fluoride on your teeth. There are all kinds of natural alternatives. You can use coconut oil with clove oil. There are many things that you can use, and factually, you don't need fluoride even topically, much less ingesting it when it's provably a neurotoxin. It's very bad for you.
I would say go ahead and use fluoride in your toothpaste. It's fine. It's not going to cause a problem. If you are concerned about fluoride in your toothpaste, there is an alternative, which is fine. Hydroxyapatite is an excellent alternative. You could use that as well. Would you have a problem using hydroxyapatite and as a toothpaste, Austin?
I don't know what that is. I just want to say
hydroxyapatite is the actual compound that makes up the enamel in teeth. And it
That's
helps
what's up. Yeah,
remineralize
yeah,
teeth
and,
as
and
well.
your teeth have 2% natural fluoride, and then they think that somehow justifies putting all the synthetic fluoride. So I don't know. I'd have to look
It's
into your
because
whatever that
we're
is.
constantly exposed to fluoride all the time. Humanity has been
Naturally
exposed to fluoride
derived
all the time.
fluoride.
If Austin
Naturally
wants
derived
to
fluoride.
get water levels of fluoride less than 0.2 milligrams per liter in the United States, that would mean that we would have to put in reverse osmosis systems across the United States, because virtually every single water system in the United States has at least 0.2
That sounds
milligrams per liter.
incredible, dude. Let's do
But
it.
it's true. You can look
Do
at it.
But dude, the Pentagon just lost $2 trillion.
Okay.
But like, okay, whatever. Reverse osmosis would be the best thing we spent money on in
Austin,
5
we
decades.
evolved for millions of years drinking these water sources.
No,
and
we have
somehow
not
got
been
to today.
drinking waste
Yes.
product from aluminum and fertilizer
Fluoride. It's just
manufacturing
fluoride ions.
industries
That's
that
all it
burn
is.
through.
You can call it a waste product, but that's all it is.
No, there's sodium, chlorine, there's sodium. Why is it that I have to keep saying this? That's what I want to know. Because can we finish it? We wrap it up on this.
Sure.
Do you agree the water added to the fluoride added to our water is a literal toxic waste product from industries such as manufacturing of metal and fertilizer companies? It's literally EPA has classified it as a toxic waste product that is not allowed to be vaporized or to touch the ground.
Austin, you've said this so many
Do
times.
you
And we've
agree
already
that it
talked
is
about
literally a
this.
toxic waste
It
product?
is not toxic at the levels that we use it. No, I will not agree to that. Yeah.
Dude, do you agree
might
that
be a
where
good
we get the
opportunity.
The
fluoride
dose
from?
makes the poison. That is the point.
That's just-
And you can ignore
I just want you to answer
toxicology all
directly.
you want.
So the audience knows. You have to admit, most of the people in the world don't even know this. Where we get the fluoride from that we put in our water that is given
Already
to
talked about
children
this.
is objectively sourced from toxic waste that comes from metal and fertilizer industry manufacturers.
Right. Yes.
Okay, that is insane,
That is
bro. That is
because
insane.
as I already explained,
Burns
so we can
through
rewind
concrete,
and I
bro.
can say the same thing since you've already said the same thing multiple times. Chemical processes result in all kinds of side products that have useful purposes. This is just a natural part of the chemical industry, that there are all kinds of side products that get synthesized and they can be repurposed for other things. That does not make them toxic, especially if they are diluted to the levels that we see that are already seen in communities that get natural fluoride in their drinking water already.
I do see
I
here
think that would be a
actually
great place
it's
to end.
a safe and better alternative is hydroxyapatite.
Appetite is exactly what I said. Yes.
Yeah,
So we
that's
can
why
at
I
least
brought it up.
agree on that.
Yeah, so why are we giving children something that hurts their brain?
You
know it
cannot put
does.
hydroxyapatite into water. It doesn't go into solution like that.
Harvard admitted that it hurts their brain.
This is a good opportunity to jump into the Q&A. We're going to fly through these as fast as we can because we have many, many questions. I want to say thank you very much, folks, for your questions. Egon Cholakian says, thanks for your kind words. Says, what's their opinion on misinformation and trust in sciences? And then it just says CE. I don't know what that stands for. But what are your guys' opinions on misinformation and trust in science?
I think that it's a huge problem. I mean, there's all kinds of BS that gets put out there. And this is one issue that's facing that as well. Like, you have people who will take little bits and pieces out of studies and exaggerate and make up things about what they actually say, and then just spew a line of bullshit that in order to try to pretend that certain things are unsafe. And but the data speak for themselves, and that's part of why I come on opportunities like this to fight against misinformation.
Austin, any thoughts on science and misinformation?
Yeah, I think that the actual science misinformation is the group of people that make tons of money and fund the government, and then they suppress all these studies, and it takes like years and years and years. There's no actual study or scientific evidence of a safe amount of fluoride at all. And then people just call you names and mock and ridicule and call it misinformation. And it's just sleight of hand, because when you say, "Oh, wait, do you have the actual evidence?" "Oh, well, everyone's not dead yet, so we can assume it's safe." Until you prove that, it's like, no, it literally burns through concrete. It's no neurotoxin. So I think the misinformation is the fact that no one even knows there's two different types. No one even knows that it is a neurotoxin. No one knows any of it. So
This one coming in from, do appreciate it. And by the way, folks, speaking of insults, I'm not going to read super chats that are just simple insults like calling someone low IQ. LJ says, my obese scientist always says never skip fluoride. That's weird. This one from Mutton Chopper says, you definitely didn't respond. Then ask yourself why there would be such a concern for the teeth of the people. Yeah, right. And space is fake. I think
Yeah, I
they're
mean, I
being
gotta
serious.
admit,
That space
they'll
is
let you
fake.
put heavy metals in your food and poison in your food because it makes it a pretty color. But they care about your teeth, though. They care about your teeth, bro. Care about your teeth. Get out of here, dude.
Sunflower
Such a joke.
says, go ahead, Chris, if you had anything.
That's right.
Dr. Thompson, they say any citation on very high levels of fluoride in water in China, quote, long before industrialization, unquote.
I don't have those studies long before industrialization. I don't know if we can necessarily find that. But before industrialization in China, there are some studies. You can look at that meta-analysis, Choi et al., 2012. There's a long list of studies there that talk about that. And I encourage whoever is asking that to look at that meta-analysis.
This one from NASA Security Forces. Austin loves gotcha statements and questions. And they said he cherry picks one analysis. I guess they, in terms of responding to that,
No,
is it
it's
true you only use
the
one analysis?
They're offering a critique, Austin.
yeah, but it's a lie
Okay.
because I didn't like I don't cherry pick. I didn't cherry pick anything. It is the most comprehensive analysis to date, and it is based on all of the most accredited studies. And again, what happened was that Harvard picked out the highest level studies, and they're like, okay, we have to admit there's a direct correlation here, roughly 0.43 but they called it an IQ point. So basically half an IQ point. But actually the study showed 0.43 of standard deviation, which is 7 IQ points. Then in 2016, they made that same mistake and claimed it's just half an IQ point. Then in 2022, they made the same mistake and claimed it's just a high five. No, it's half a standard deviation. It's 7 points. 7-point decrease in IQ. We're cutting our geniuses in half at that rate, or less than that rate. And that is factually what has been shown in the comprehensive study of the correlation between IQ. So I'm picking the best study, the most comprehensive study, based on all the studies he's cherry picking from, and they said there is no evidence of a safe threshold that can actually be validated. That's what they said.
Okay, Austin, you're saying how much fluoride is related to a 7-point decline in IQ?
I don't remember the specific number.
Okay.
This one from Eli Hernandez. This question, does Dr. Thompson believe in overpopulation? I think they mean currently is the world overpopulated.
Oh, right. Oh, because this is kind of getting at the globalist conspiracy, right? So there are people who think that the reason why we put fluoride in the drinking water is to make sort of a supplicant populace that's going to be more susceptible to the dangers of postmodernist Marxist transgenderism or something along those lines, and then we're just trying to kill off the population by poisoning the drinking water. That's utterly ridiculous. There's no reason to think that that's the case. I don't think that we're actually overpopulated, though. So I don't actually believe that. I think that the Earth still has the capacity to have more people.
You got it. They also, Dr. Thompson said, is it a flat or globe Earth?
Oh, well, that has nothing to do with this debate, but I will say that you can find fluoride. I said it's ubiquitous. You can find it in the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, the eastern hemisphere, and the western hemisphere. I'll just say it at that.
This one from NASA Security Force. They say, Austin, a legal plea is not evidence. It's just making claims to be argued. Show real proof.
Yeah, you mean like 26 of the 27 studies that met the Harvard team's inclusion criteria found a relationship between elevated fluoride and reduced IQ. Harvard team concluded that fluoride's effect on developing brain of children should be a quote unquote high research priority in countries like the US, where despite mass fluoridation programs, no studies have yet been conducted to investigate this issue at lower levels. In 2006, the apparent fluorides have the ability to interfere with the functions of the brain, quote unquote, from the National Research Council. So again, demanding that there actually be a US based research on fluoride IQ effects, which has not occurred. So, I mean, the studies don't even exist. And, again, you should look into it. It's also associated with dementia and skeletal and like skeletal issues. So, I mean, I'm just.
And autism, right? That was one of your links.
Yeah. There is a link
right.
to.
Yeah, I read that one study and it was total junk.
This one from.
Okay. What's up?
Hingle44 says, Whitson, moving from knowing nothing about measuring the earth, nothing about astronomy, nothing about physics, and now we can add chemistry and medical stuff. to the list. At least you're consistent in your wrongness, Witsit. Wow,
These are the
quite the
same.
critic.
These are the same people that would say lead was good. They're literally the same people that would have argued because the government told them that lead wasn't bad. They would have said, "You crazy, stupid science denying conspiracy theorists, lead in our pipe and in our gasoline isn't bad. Lead in our paint when children eat it isn't bad. What are you talking about?" And the government was fighting it for decades. So,
Okay, I just want to correct this. It wasn't the government that was fighting this. It was actually the government that determined this. It was through
government
government-funded studies, yes, that showed that lead toxicity has negative effects on children during development. Yes,
and it was suppressed for years.
It was not suppressed for years. These
Yes, it
studies were
was.
published. Yeah, the only people that want to suppress this are the corporate overlords and the private industries. They're the ones who are
major
producing the lead.
fertilization. You mean like fertilizer and aluminum
No,
companies?
I'm talking about like first of all, like we're not putting lead into products much anymore, right? Of course, there are leaded products. You can get leaded sinkers for doing fishing. There's leaded bullets available in some products, in some states that still allow it, even though I don't think that they should because it has an impact on the wildlife in those areas. But lead itself isn't necessarily going to kill you if you touch lead metal. It's the ingestion of lead that's a problem, and that comes from primarily dormant sources at this point, which is acidification that leads to leaching of lead from lead pipes, lead paint that was outlawed by the government in the 1960s, and then as well as the government regulation of leaded gasoline. Unfortunately, leaded gasoline led to spewing of lead out into the environment, so it's in our soils, and it's from leaded gasoline primarily, in which a lot of people are still getting affected by lead poisoning. The good thing is that the regulations that the EPA put in place starting in the 1970s, so that's the government doing this, the EPA did it, led to lead, no pun intended, caused a decline in the levels of lead that we were detecting in children to the point where it's now at relatively safe levels, fortunately, today. But it took decades of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was the government that did it.
And there were tons of people.
The government wasn't suppressing the dangers of lead. The government was the one pushing it.
There was tons of propaganda.
Yeah.
To attack those that were trying to point it out, because there was a ton, objectively, there was tons of money at stake. And again, the fluoride that's in our water isn't even pharmaceutical grade. It's waste product that isn't even refined, and it has lead, arsenic, mercury, and sometimes uranium in it.
Right. Incredibly low level.
Oh, so it's okay that it's not pharmaceutical grade. We don't even know what's in it.
I can assure you the community water systems are monitoring the amount of lead in their systems. And when they add sodium fluoride, if there's a tiny, tiny little bit of lead, it's not getting up to any detectable level.
1.6 parts per
water
billion.
Systems have gallons and gallons. I know that we can't go on and on like this.
Yeah, even arsenic's been found. There's no safe level of arsenic.
That's not
Hango
true.
44 says fluorides are present naturally in water and soil at varying levels. Witsit, I'm not sure why you're worried about fluoride and IQ. You should have been more concerned with all the lead paint you obviously drank.
Yeah, but it's goofy because guarantee, like I won't even say it, it doesn't matter. But I will just say, you said that was untrue. The EPA has determined there's no safe levels of arsenic, and then when they actually did a surprise test of a certain water treatment facility, they found arsenic in the water, and they know that the source was actually the non-refined, non-pharmaceutical grade fluoride that was added. And again, that super chat is
arsenic is also something that naturally occurs, and that is a problem in some communities. The
EPA has determined that there are no safe levels of arsenic, and to adjust the super chat, right? Like, again, you're conflating the natural fluoride that has high solubility with the synthetically derived toxic waste product from industries such as aluminum and fertilizer manufacturers. The fact that I've had to say the statement 50 times, I'm having to argue with the slaves to not want toxic product that companies need to throw away and can't get rid of because EPA said it's so toxic. Don't let it vaporize in the air. Don't let it touch the ground. Immediately wrap it up and get rid of it. It's so toxic it burns through concrete, and they have nowhere to put it. They need to get rid of it. It just costs them money, and they just dump it in our water. And I have to argue with the slaves via Stockholm syndrome that these companies are putting something that is known to be toxic in your water and giving it to babies and refusing to do the studies to prove that it's safe because all studies have shown it's not safe. I have to argue with them, mocked by them, to try to make sure that we stand up and say, no, we don't want this crazy non-pharmaceutical grade poison in our water. It's pretty crazy, the world that we live in.
Communities that use fluoridation, artificial fluoridation, find that it actually has benefits for tooth decay. When they remove fluoridation, they find an increase in tooth decay. They don't see any measurable change in other ill effects. It's simply getting up to the levels that is already seen in so many communities already naturally. That's all.
I bet paint thinner would help get rid of tooth decay.
Sure. Okay.
This one coming in from Yoda says, "Someone please check the moderator's pulse. I'm just groggy today. I haven't had too much fluoride. I'm all right, thank you." John Malaya says, "LOL." Dr. Thompson says, "Quote, due to poor Western diet." They say, "You mean like fluoride in their water?" They're
No,
saying,
there's no evidence indicating that fluoride in the water causes calcification in the pineal gland. As I already said, there are countries that don't do artificial fluoridation. They have relatively low levels of fluoride. And a great example of this is Iran. So I did just some looking as well, like into this. Iran has relatively low levels of fluoride in most of their water systems, but they have somewhere between 70 and 80% of calcification of the pineal gland. This was a study that was just published in 2022. And yeah, so they have calcified pineal glands as well.
"You got it. Thank you very much for this question coming in from
Okay.
NASA Security Force." Says, "Austin plus doctor or versus doctor." They say DV/IV for calcification of the pineal gland is shown to not be from fluoride across the globe. Please have a 40 plus. Okay, but anyway, we'll give them a chance to
No, that's
give
not even
Austin a
no.
chance to
Yeah.
respond.
Please have a 40 plus IQ before you talk about IQ or something like that. Look, you know what's funny? What's funny though is that they actually is shown in the places that don't have as much fluoride that their IQ or that they don't suffer as much from calcification. That's why people claim that it happens. And I readily will say that like it's very correlative. But again, out of all the studies that have been done in terms of IQ, okay, and neural development, like 52 of the 55 studies found lower IQ with the fluoride exposures, and then the higher rated quality, 18 of 19. So all quality controls show, almost all of them, 18 of 19, 52 of 55, 26 of 27. And no, they're not all over 4. They range.
They are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Even a study that tasted the urine of pregnant women showed that 0.2 ppm was directly related to up to 3.5 IQ drop off. That is a fact. I'll send you all the studies.
Yeah, please send me that study.
So you
because
agree
that is
that
totally inconsistent with every single study that I've looked where they show.
Wait, how many studies have you looked at that tested as low as 0.2?
When you look, I just showed you a study where we looked at exposure levels that are above 0.2, and there's no IQ drop.
Hey, is that in the list of what has been ran through the proper controls, like the actual examination? Wait. So you're saying that's considered one of the higher quality studies?
I still have some issues with that study, but there are lots of studies showing the same thing.
There's only one.
No, there's lots of studies showing.
Wait, Christopher, are you saying you picked out of there's 27 highest quality studies?
Sure.
Are you saying you went and picked out the one? Because 26 or 27. Okay. Because that wouldn't be
the study that I showed you was published in 2019.
Okay, so in 2022 they said 52 of 55.
Yes, the meta-analysis that we were talking about, the Harvard study that you keep talking about with 26 to 27 studies indicating a relationship. Yeah, that's the Harvard study that was published in 2012.
Yes.
That's Choi et al. 2012. I read through that, and I read through many of the studies that were also included in that meta-analysis, where they had to include study after study looking in China, because the only time that you can see a significant effect on IQ in children that are exposed are those that get naturally really high levels of fluoride. That's somewhere between 5 and 10 times the amount that we typically do for fluoridation. And what actually just
cherry picking the higher end of them. You're cherry picking the higher end of them. They're not all over 4. They range all the way down to 1.5. And again,
of course they include 1.5, but they don't show an effect at that level.
Yes, it did.
They look at that and they show no effect. I looked at the studies. Austin, they do not. You are lying, man. I swear to God. I looked at those studies.
In the systematic review by the National Toxicological Program in 2022, okay, 52 of 55 studies show that there's a lower IQ.
They included many of these studies. I can assure you.
With higher fluoride exposures in terms of higher than the US of 0.7 or even up to 1.5. Okay. But they also did other studies of lower end, which is it's incredibly lacking. The actual National Toxicological Program's official statement was that there is a huge lack of evidence to actually determine that the lower end does not have a direct correlation, and that the few that exist did show a correlation, and that they therefore cannot conclude any safe threshold or exclude any threshold of consistently consumed fluoridated water when it comes to effect on IQ. That is the official review in 2022. You should be like, damn, you should be with me demanding,
because you are, I'm sure that you're misrepresenting that study. I know that that's your reading quote.
Okay.
I understand that, but
I just
however,
quoted the meta-analysis could not detect any
I've
safe
actually
exposure,
looked
quote
at the
unquote.
actual data, and it's there's a consistent pattern where we don't see a drop in IQ at children that are exposed to somewhere between 0.7 and 1.5 milligrams per liter. And that the only place where you actually see a drop, and it's not 7 points, you are way off on that, but you start to see a drop is at levels that are above 4 or 5 milligrams per liter.
Oh
and we
my gosh. It's 0.43, it's 0.46 standard deviation, and that was stamped by Harvard in 2012,
but I think that you're 2022. I think that you're intuiting. I would assume that you're intuiting something that's off
We
there.
should go to the next one. Mutton Chopper says
0.46 standard deviation, which is 7 points.
All right, but we should keep going.
Mutton Chopper says, my teeth, my choice.
That's terrible,
Epstein
bro.
says, my teeth, my choice. Epstein didn't
I
kill
agree.
himself.
My teeth, my choice.
Hango44 says, I'm new to this. Who should I listen to? A doctor specializing in toxicology or a flat earth guy? Maybe fluoride theoretically displaces your teeth when exposed to cold moonlight. I think
or you shouldn't just believe one person that you hear talking. You should go to fluoridealert.org. You should actually look at the official toxicologist, the highest rated toxicological program and study and lawsuit in the world. Tons of doctors, tons of dentists, tons of toxicologists, all there. They're all there, present in the lawsuit, present in the supportive documents, present in the actual systematic review, showing that there is absolutely an issue with fluoridated water in many ways, again, including kidney failure, skeletal issues, even teeth fluorosis. Ironically, there's no topical benefit, and that there's a direct neural development issue when it comes to neurotoxicity. This is stamped by hundreds of doctors. So appeal to authority doesn't make your position true because the authorities don't agree.
Turbo says, did you know beef has iron in it? Iron is a metal which guns are made out of. Witsit, do you think spamming, quote, acid that melts concrete is convincing?
Well, they actually have to take that fluoric acid and they use it to add the sodium fluoride to the water. But it is just a fact. So that's crazy. You have to pull out hazmat suits all of a sudden. But it's a fact that the EPA says that they have to immediately wrap this sodium fluoride up because it's not even allowed to vaporize. It's so toxic, and it's not allowed to touch the soil. It's not allowed to touch the dirt. Those are the official EPA regulations and guidelines. You can't let it vaporize. You can't let it touch the ground. And they immediately transport it and dump it in your water. And then they say it's for your teeth. And then they actually give it to children without teeth.
Austin,
you've got to be kidding me. This is like some Batman and Joker
I think
stuff.
I think that you're confusing hydrofluoric acid with sodium fluoride. They're not the same. Sodium fluoride.
I just said they weren't the same.
They actually sell them as tablets. You
just
can
said they
buy
weren't the same.
tablets. It's not just toxic waste. They're not the same. Hydrofluoric acid is not the same as sodium fluoride.
I just said they weren't the same. I said they use hydrofluoric acid. They use it to add they add sodium fluoride to the water. Just Google it.
They use sodium fluoride.
I just want to make it. I want to make it known for the audience that this is the same guy who told me that the synthetically derived sodium fluoride is no more toxic than the naturally derived form of fluoride.
At the concentrations that we're talking about, yeah, that's right.
What level exactly does it all of a sudden become more toxic than naturally derived?
There's no evidence that use of fluoridation purposes at between 0.7 and 1.5 has any ill effects.
Are they exactly the same? The natural and synthetic one, are they exactly the same?
I don't know of any studies showing whether they're exactly the same, but yeah, I would guess so because, in fact, when we have natural levels of fluoride, we also see no ill effects, but they do have the dental benefit because there are communities that don't have to add fluoride because they already have natural levels of fluoride that are already at those levels.
You admit you don't even know that one's way more toxic.
In China, they don't use artificial fluoride, yet they see these ill effects. So it has
That
nothing
makes
to
it
do with
even worse.
artificial versus synthetic. It has no difference.
Wait, can I
This one
repeat
from-
one
Your
more time,
distinction
Jamie?
of artificial versus synthetic can make no
It took us
difference
this whole
whatsoever.
debate to get to this point. This is very important. That makes my point even stronger, that the studies that show the ill effects of the brain development and the IQ correlation are predominantly in places where there's naturally derived higher concentrations of fluoride in water. What we know that the synthetically derived waste product is more toxic because of the solubility difference. Therefore, to make the assumption that it requires the higher levels, such as with the naturally derived, it requires those same higher thresholds than it will with the synthetically derived, is erroneous.
Austin,
You are
can you
now putting our
explain?
children at risk, and you didn't even tell the people at the
Can
time
you
that
can
there's
you
a
please
difference.
explain the solubility issue? What is that? You've
I
referred
just
to
know-
this
I
several
didn't-
times.
Yeah, like
How is the difference in solubility a factor?
well, I'm
Explain
just
it.
pointing out one of the differences. And
Yeah,
so, and
but
so,
why is it a factor? Why
no,
does it
I
matter?
I don't know
You
why
don't know.
it's
Okay. All right.
Wait,
Let's
wait.
go
I
on.
don't, wait,
That's
wait,
fine.
wait.
No, let's just go on.
Okay,
This
you can
one
just look it up. I
from-
have a note here on it. Like you're
I-
admitting you don't know either. Somehow this is a
No,
gotcha.
I do know. You
You said that
don't.
they're not any different.
Yeah, at these
ridiculous.
concentrations, it doesn't matter. We're below solubility of both these compounds, and it doesn't matter.
This one coming in
I'll,
from
I'll, okay, it's fine. I'll find it and read it in the next one.
Okay.
Munchin
Take a
Chopper
chemistry
says
class.
natural and synthetic are not the same, Dr. Thompson.
Right, of course. Natural and synthetic aren't the same. Those are two different words. Yeah. But what we're talking about is getting fluoride ions into drinking water. That can happen naturally, and you don't actually have to do fluoridation to get it to the levels that we know confer a benefit with no toxic effects. Or you can use artificial sources to do it as well.
This one from
Okay, so let me repeat why. Okay, because you I said this already. It says that the calcium fluoride is considered the least toxic, and in some cases relatively harmless, and that's because of its high insolubility. Moreover, calcium is a well-known antidote for fluoride poisoning. In nature, an antidote often naturally exists in combination with the poison, making the poison less toxic to the body. Okay? But that is now on the other side of it, you have the synthetic industrial version of fluoride that is added to the public water, drinking water, called sodium fluoride. This industrial version is a synthetic toxic waste known to cause cancer. It is not going to be paired with the calcium that's known to be the antidote that actually counters the toxicity of the actual fluoride effects. That's just one of the reasons. So do you?
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any truth. Okay, is calcium a natural antidote that can counter poisonous effects? Yes or no?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Like,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
So I mean, I find it weird.
right.
You come defend it and you don't even know.
I actually am not too sure what you're saying.
Hang044 says, Witsit, I hope you make your own clothes. The dye used in fabrics is very, very toxic. At the levels your skin is exposed to it, it is fine, but you won't want to expose your skin to high levels of clothing dye.
You think that's the same as the most vulnerable people in our society, such as pregnant women and babies and people born with natural ailments and susceptible immune systems consuming the same amount of water ingested? You think that's somehow analogous to me wearing clothes? You think ingesting industrial toxic waste products for babies and infants that are just sitting there like where they're defenseless in the womb, you think that's somehow the same as me wearing a shirt? It's ridiculous. We get the same amount to all people involved. And we know for a fact fluoride is crippling for certain children, certainly people with weak skeletal structures and weak kidneys, factually, objectively,
No evidence for that.
except for all the studies that have ever been done.
Okay.
Archer.
None of those studies have been done.
Archer Dog, thanks so much for your question. Said, how many third world immigrants were added to the population of Calgary, and wouldn't that impact the study totals?
When third world immigrants were added to the population of Calgary. The study, from what I understand, looked at overall demographic change between Calgary and Edmonton. And basically, that's the reason why they used Edmonton as a control, because these are nearby cities that had very similar overall demographic changes over that time. So if it was due to, say, some sort of demographic change, like a big influx of immigrants, then you would expect to see an increase in dental cavities in both places, if that was the factor that would explain it. But they didn't see an increase in dental decay in Edmonton. They only saw it in Calgary.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate yours. Register Slow says, Doctor, you offered a safe alternative, then claimed fluoride is safe. It was done because industry didn't have storage. Hydrofluorosilicic acid. So acid is in water. Fluorosis happens before teeth come in. Link to cancer.
Okay, so there's a lot of claims in there. We've already talked about that. That it's only at really high levels that you see some sort of relationship of fluoride exposure and an increased incidence of cancer. There's no evidence that at the concentrations that we're talking about that it's associated with an increased incidence of cancer. I'm not aware of any study that shows that. There just really aren't any studies showing at the levels that we're talking about that there's some sort of ill health effect.
This one coming in from, do appreciate it. It's
Trying to make sure I'm still on the screen.
Huh?
I'm still on the screen if I lean back?
Yes.
You're good.
Do you have a
Okay.
green screen? Is that, you don't have
No.
a green screen right now, do you?
No.
Why would you go? I don't get it.
No, I just didn't know how you cropped the.
Oh, all good, brother. NetTube
Cool.
user says, how can anyone take Austin's claims seriously, given he lacks qualifications as a chemist/scientist and we'll just let you answer that, Austin.
Poisoning the well, genetic fallacy. So these aren't arguments. And again, these are, I told a true story. I encourage you guys to look at it. I don't claim to be an expert in this, right? The fact that I can even hold my own against an actual toxicologist, you should be concerned. And you can say I didn't hold my own, but he didn't even know the difference between the two. He claimed that one wasn't more toxic than the other, which is well agreed upon in the field that that's not true. And the field of toxicology is well agreed upon that the synthetic waste product is more toxic. And I'm just gonna let you know, these are official toxicologists that make these reports. This is the most respected organization ever. And there was a federal lawsuit. And then the NIH tried to suppress the study once it took 5 to 7 years to finally get it out. They suppressed it and forbid them from releasing it. The judge had to force them to do so because the motion of the actual prosecutory team demanded it. They granted the motion, and they forced them. And then through FOIA, they found out that these huge places like the ADA, like dentistry organizations and associations, and the people tied to the actual chemical plants were pressuring the actual people via FOIA has been proven. So then the NIH, second in charge, shut down the thing. And when you go at the judge made them release it. When you go read it, it says, whoa, there's overwhelming evidence there's a direct correlation to IQ, and that there's no actual study showing that the lower amounts don't. There's there's a shortage of tests that are legitimately testing the smaller amounts. We need more evidence, but even the ones that did test the smaller amounts also showed a relationship between a reduction in IQ, and that's just IQ. Neurodevelopment issues and toxicity isn't just limited to IQ. And they said, we can't say that there's any safe amount based on the study, which is why the NIH did not want that study to come out. And you'll never hear pro-fluoride advocates actually invoke that entire systematic review from 2022 done by the toxicological program, because it's so damning. You'll hear them talk about 2012 and it's in China. Never will you hear them address the 2022. So I don't got to be an expert to say, look at all the experts, look at all the evidence, look at all the chemical, scientific, biochemistry evidence.
Like, all I will say is that Austin does, look, you don't need to be an expert necessarily to read these things. Austin proves that. You don't need to be an expert to read a bunch of anti-fluoridation propaganda and be able to regurgitate those things as well. Austin's really good at what he does. Absolutely. But he's not good at actually reading data and real studies and the actual studies and interpreting those studies.
Can you please answer my question?
He's good at talking points and he's good at regurgitating propaganda.
How is the U.S. National Toxicology Program systematic review anti-fluoride propaganda?
They are referring to the same studies that I'm already talking about, that we already
discussed. So you're saying they're incompetent and they messed up?
Looked at the data. When you have fluoridation in water systems, it does not result in any measurable decline in IQ.
So just to
reiterate, compared to non-fluoridated systems, the only thing that you see is an increase in dental decay. We both agree
that at higher levels, there is absolutely, unequivocally, indisputably an effect on the IQ of the individuals consuming the fluoride. Is that correct?
at high levels, much higher than what we're talking about, yeah, there's an effect. But that's true for just about any compound because the dose makes the poison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm pointing out is they point out the meta-analysis could not detect any safe exposure, and that in the few that was testing all the way as low as 0.2 ppm in the urine of pregnant women,
Yeah.
they
And I
showed that
don't buy that.
you
I
can't
don't
just
buy
say you
that.
don't buy
Yeah,
it.
I don't. Like, I know you're just quoting some garbage that you saw on some anti-fluoride website.
Again, U.S.
And you're not
National
actually looking at the actual study. Now you're going to send me the link. I hope that you
Yeah.
Okay, please share it with me because 0.2 milligrams per liter of urine concentration is going to be, that means that those women are being, they're basically
0.4-ish.
exposed. You get parity essentially. So they're probably exposed to around 0.2 milligrams per liter. And you're saying that just 0.2 milligrams per liter of exposure
in the
is
urine.
associated. Yeah, we're talking about urine concentration.
They said
right?
it could be up to 0.4. So they say that by the time it gets through
0.4, right? Okay, 0.2 to 0.4, but that's still really, really low. That's on the low end
I
of fluoride
agree.
concentrations that we see in the entire United States, fluoridated or not.
So you would agree if that study is true, then we have a
What
major
would you even
problem.
compare it to?
Well, that's
Like
a good
zero?
question because they've been
Nobody
fluoridating
has
our children
zero.
since the 50s.
Nobody has zero. Nobody has zero. That's the thing. There's fluoride in all water systems. You're going to find fluoride in every single
definitely we
water
shouldn't be
system.
adding it.
Okay.
It's so simple. It's so simple.
Yet somehow you can't grasp it.
This one coming in from, do appreciate it. NASA Security Force says, I want to hear about ethereal displacement. Go. I think they're joking. This one from I Killed Earl says,
Etheric displacement, gravity is actually an emergent property, but the dedication to the nonsense that is the heliocentric materialistic cosmological principle of Copernicanism has required them to just believe in fairy tales such as the reification of space and time, not address the fact that actually time and space are just merely conceptual, and gravity can only be an emergent property based on the oscillatory nature of a background. But they'll learn one day.
I Killed Earl
Oscillatory
says,
nature of a background. They're gonna be like, "Oh, word salad. Oh, I messed up on the pronunciation."
and I Killed Earl says, NAF is a weak base, Witsit. That's why it also helps to neutralize the acid effects of bacteria. You know nothing, in all caps, about chemistry.
Yeah.
Sodium fluoride has
And it's well known you don't just kill bacteria. That doesn't actually solve the problem, right?
It neutralizes the acid that's produced by bacteria. That's what they're
You don't
talking about.
Yeah, you don't want to just destroy bacteria though, right? The actual reason that you'll have some type of actual health issue, is based on other issues with your body's inability to incorporate and to actually adhere or like take care of the biological introduction, the biochemical introduction of the bacteria, not just killing the bacteria. This is similar to, oh, you have cancer. Okay, well, let's radiate your entire body. Oh, you have a couple sick cells? Let's kill all the cells. And I'm just going to start plugging the information with each super chat. The Lancet Review 2014 quote, our very great concern is that children worldwide are being exposed to an unrecognized toxic chemical that is silently eroding intelligence, disrupting behaviors, truncating future achievements, and damaging societies, perhaps most seriously in developing countries. No, not to the U.S. No, not to the U.S. where our IQ is just falling and we got, people think men can get pregnant.
You got it. Thank you very much for this question coming in from 2 seconds as this loads. Demoiser says fluoride is as natural as mercury. Both form naturally.
I'm glad you brought mercury up. So this is a perfect example of how these industries operate. They will say pregnant women shouldn't eat fish because of mercury. And this is at super low levels of mercury. But then for years and years and years, they injected a much higher concentration of thimerosal, mercury, directly into the blood of babies. Why? Because it was a preservative. So way higher concentrations of mercury for a preservative that increases the shelf life of the liability-free poisonous concoctions people call jabs. That can go directly into the baby as soon as it's born, but a pregnant woman can eat a fish with way lower concentrations ingested and worked through her body. No, we'll inject the baby directly. That's just a perfect example of how it is so hilariously profit over people, and all these papers and publications are corrupt, and they suppress the actual evidence that is antithetical to their political and profit-driven agenda. I shouldn't have to fight with people to stand up against that corruption. It's insane that people are fighting for fluoride. I think it's just because they hate Republicans, they hate RFK or whatever. Truth is, like, he's Democrat, and I don't care about any of it. It's all fake and stupid and gay. I just don't think we should be poisoning our children.
This one comes in from Register Slow. It says hydrofluorosilicic acid is DOC. They just say DOC. What does that mean? Is this some sort of slang the kids are using nowadays?
I don't recognize it, but I'm
They
not hip on the slang that the kids are using these days.
they also
Harvard
say that
School of Public Health website bulletin posted, quote, fluoride seems to fit in with lead, mercury, and other poisons that cause chemical brain drain. The effect of each toxicant may seem small, but then the combined damage on a population scale can be serious, especially because the brain power of the next generation is crucial to all of us.
Okay. Yeah.
That's Harvard Bulletin.
this,
Harvard Bulletin. Okay.
A professor.
Well, but what they're talking about is the elevated levels that we see in areas where there's naturally very high levels. We're not talking
So they
about
said we
fluoridation.
need more studies because this isn't something
Sure.
to mess with at all.
There's already been so many studies. Like, some of these people are just doing it because for the clicks, essentially, the academic
He's
version of clicks.
divining the Harvard dots now.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Gotcha. Great argument, bro.
you got it. This one coming in from Register Slow also said hydrofluorosilicic acid is in the water and eats through lead in pipes and changes solubility.
Sometimes hydrofluoric acid does actually get in water.
Sure.
That's no
It
problem.
can get into water. Yeah.
And do
In
you agree
wa-
it's terrible if that's terrible?
Right. That's why we don't use hydrofluoric acid.
But it gets in water because people are trying to add fluoride to it, which is also
No,
bad.
because it's an industrial waste product that unfortunately, can be found in very high concentrations, like the Flint River, which is what happened when the Republican governor of Michigan required the, basically put in one of his lackeys to control Flint, Michigan, and where they did cost-cutting measures where they used this heavily polluted water system, the Flint River, in order to to use that as drinking water. And it was highly acidic, and they did not put in the proper corrosion control measures. And that's what ended up causing the lead to be leached from the system.
It was highly acidic
fluoride.
because people take the industrial waste products of these companies we've been talking about all day,
That's
all
right.
night.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they take the
Republican donors, by the
hydrofluoric
way.
acid, they take
Yeah.
it to the actual water treatment
right.
facilities. They use that to then put the fluoride in the water. That's the only reason it's even close to water supplies, objectively.
Right. But we should just do away with the EPA.
No. We should do away with all their profit-driven regulations that place profit over people, and then suppress the actual studies that are independently done that show that it's dangerous.
Let's see what happens over the next 4 years.
This one
It
coming
can only
in
get
from
better. It can only get better.
this one from Bay. Let's see. Native Wildman says Austin is Sasquatch real.
No, I don't think so. No.
Really? This one from.
You think I'm supposed to just believe every?
We'll see if
I-
we'll
I
set
think
you
there's
up with a
probably maybe
debate.
some weird animal that people don't know about.
We'll set you up with a little debate with Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum of the University of Washington. How do you like them apples?
I mean, I don't know enough about it. I don't even know. He may destroy me. I don't. My friend swears up and down there's something around him. I don't know.
This one from Big Daddy Globe. Say, Austin, words. Okay. We're looking for genuine questions. Let's see. Magellan.
You call me
good to
word
see
salad.
you.
Word salad. I didn't. What have I said this entire time? I was word salad.
Yeah, Austin, when are you going to come out with that word salad dressing? Because I want that.
I know it's freaking upfront.
Sure.
Production costs,
I would
man.
buy that merch.
Currently being
Upfront
patented.
production costs, bro.
It's gonna make Whitsitt a millionaire. It reminds me. You guys ever seen the movie? What's it with Owen Wilson? And the Ed something. They're trying to find their dad. Anyway, Magellan said, okay, I think that's it. Let me just double check. I think that's all for our questions. We want to say, folks, thank you for all of your questions. Little Baloo says people need more healthy things added to the water. It will make people more healthy, and it will have what plants crave. Oh, that's funny. I know what movie that's from. You
Dude,
guys
I
know
living
what
swear
movie
we're
that's from?
basically an idiocracy. We got
I
people
would agree with that. Yeah.
But we got people demanding that toxic waste product be added to our water and given to children without teeth for their teeth. You got to be kidding me.
And we have idiots with brain worms who couldn't even, work in 2012 That's why that's how we know that he actually had a brainworm, now in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services.
You're saying
A
babies
guy
without
with a
teeth.
brainworm.
You're saying babies without teeth need fluoride for their teeth, bro. Like, come on,
Okay.
bro.
Sure.
It's ridiculous.
All right.
Sunflower said Brondo has electrolytes. Sunflower, did you have an other question that I did miss? I'm sorry about that, bro. I've been super groggy today, so I did screw that up. Let me just give him a chance. If you can, Sunflower, put that in the chat one more time because I screwed that up. Let's see. They say Magellan says, "Is this Austin's new thing? Is this a new topic for you, Austin, that you're pretty amped about? What are your topics you guys have both been interested in debating lately?"
Pretty much debate anything I truly think.
Yeah, no, I think Austin's been on this for a little while. I'm the same way.
Not really.
I would debate anything that I truly think too, right? So
I found out
I
about
often debate
fluoride
creation,
when I was
evolution, and that's one thing that I've been on here for modern day debates a bunch of times.
found out about
But
fluoride when I was like 15, 16, bro. Like I had to
Sure.
brush up today.
yeah. Oh, I mean, okay. Well, I think you were spamming. It was about a week ago or so.
That's why I just had to randomly try to go look up links and look through some of my notes and then try to find them real quick because that's why
Sure.
I'm sure there are some that aren't great. But someone was like, "Oh, what
Yeah.
about the lead? What about the lead?" I'm like, "Oh, because if you read the article for that, it talks about how it can strip, like it's an actual peer-reviewed paper talking about how the fluoride can strip the lead. You can say it's no good, but we got to listen to the people that disagree and to determine what's credible or whatever. Like, cool story,
Sure.
and then it shows the
You're
toxicology of lead. So I mean,
Right. The list of links that you were spamming last week, though, included links to studies that don't even mention fluoride.
You have to follow, yeah, exactly. You have to follow them in order to understand the actual line of reasoning.
I followed them in order, and I couldn't follow it for you.
It's just like, okay, well,
maybe we can revisit it.
Yeah, because I have way more now. I have like way more specifically about fluoride, and it's so funny that people act like there's no debate to be had here. Oh, a fairly substantial body of research indicates that patients with chronic renal insufficiency are at an increased risk of chronic fluoride toxicity. These patients may develop skeletal fluorosis even at 1 ppm fluoride in the drinking water.
Okay, great.
So then do you agree that someone with that ailment and precondition or whatever should not be introduced to fluoridated water?
I would have to look at the study.
Don't you agree that this universal approach is highly unscientific?
No, I don't.
It's
actually
universal
very
application
scientific.
despite people with different conditions, different
Sure.
ages, different ailments, different illnesses, susceptibilities. You agree there are certain illnesses like kidney failure, like kidney diseases will make you more susceptible to the toxicological effects of certain metals and stuff? Obviously, right?
To certain metals, sure, but fluoride isn't a metal.
That's not the point. The point is that certain toxins, it's not just metals. The kidney helps get rid of toxins.
So any element. You're talking about any element that you might be exposed to. Right.
Any
toxin. We're talking the fluoridation process is just simply bringing up the amount of fluoride that's in some water sources to levels that we already see naturally in many other areas. That's all.
Yeah, the doctor's probably a quack. I mean, maybe.
And some areas it's much higher, and they actually have to do remediation to remove fluoride.
Current fluoride exposures linked to osteomalacia in dialysis patients. Current levels.
I understand. You're reading a long list of talking points.
Current levels, current exposures.
Okay. Sunflower says, all I said was sodium fluoride is 2,500 times more soluble in water at room temp than calcium fluoride. Any thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah. So sodium fluoride, that makes sense that it would be more soluble than calcium fluoride. Both are going to be soluble at the concentrations that we're talking about, which is why, obviously, you can get fluoride into drinking water through natural means. And then it does.
Well, you said both are. He just pointed out 2,500 times more soluble.
Do you understand what solubility means?
Yes.
Okay. What does that mean?
It actually gets absorbed into the medium.
No, that's not what it means. It's talking about what is the highest concentration that you can get it into solution. That's solubility.
The absorption.
Yes, and solubility of both of these compounds is much higher than what we're talking about.
That's what solubility means.
Okay.
That's from
it's irrelevant to the discussion.
Low levels of current exposure levels of fluoride linked to skeletal fluorosis. I'm just going to pop them in there. Super chat. I don't want the audience to be misled here. It's objectively a problem. It's poisonous.
Sure.
You got it. This one. Big Daddy Globe says, Witsit, would you debate Professor Dave again?
Yeah, sure. Why not? If there's a real moderator. Some cases of rental osteodystrophy, I butchered that. Osteodystrophy. Is that good? Osteodystrophy are likely skeletal fluorosis.
Please keep going.
Early analysis is. I have no shame in mispronouncing certain medical terms.
I know you don't.
Dude, you think you've never mispronounced?
Come on. I have no shame. I'm going to clip that.
Dude, we all know that certain medical terms, until you've actually learned how to pronounce them, they're difficult to pronounce. I have no shame. Okay. I've heard doctors butcher it all the time.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
It doesn't matter.
Of course, because you're just reading a list of talking points off of some anti-fluoridation website.
I know what it's saying. What it's saying is that early onset of skeletal fluorosis is misdiagnosed, and that it shows that it has a direct relationship with current exposure of fluoride. So I don't need to know what the other symptom is that's being misdiagnosed.
Send me a link to the study. I'm sure you've
thoroughly read. I'm
sure you thoroughly read the study and you evaluated whether it's actually genuinely true.
I haven't read every single study here. There's like 500.
Oh, interesting. Have you read any of them?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like the systematic review that showed that there was literally not a safe amount to put in water.
Okay.
This one coming in
Children
from
with kidney disease are at risk for severe dental fluorosis. Fluoride can damage the kidney itself. These are all, because I just want to make a point. I'm not appealing to the authority, and people are like, oh, should I trust Austin or the doctor? It's like, that's stupid. These are all doctors, toxicologists. You know, these are even dentists.
These are all cherry-picked factoids, and we would have to go through each one. This is the problem with bullshit, is that they will cherry pick things that are going to try to be consistent.
That's what you're doing.
A worldview that just isn't actually reflective of the data. That's
what you're doing. That's what you're
doing. I'm not doing that. I'm showing the actual data. You're just reading.
I asked you for 2 hours to show me an actual study that takes a small amount and does a direct correlative study proving it. No, all you did was say, "Hey, look, here are different cities that I think aren't that big of a deal." And I told you that even down to 0.22 ppm showed that there was a relationship. You just said, "No, that's not a real study." Like, okay.
This one coming in from Magellan says, Austin is now an expert in toxicology after a couple weeks of YouTube and listing down the biggest words he can find.
No. I've known fluoride was bad for a long time, so I'm just not stupid. I know that I'm able to use pattern recognition, and I know that when giant companies have nowhere they can put their toxic waste products, and they're making you know how much aluminum we make? You know how much fertilizer we make? That's phosphate. You know how much phosphate so fertilizer via phosphate and aluminum and different metals that we make? Think about the mass production of those products. And to make those products, it generates waste. Now, if I just put myself in their mind and I'm like, okay, the EPA, they hate the EPA because they always have tons of regulations to protect our environment. They come and say, dude, you can't just be pouring this everywhere. It's way too toxic. If it vaporizes, it's too toxic. Then I just know, okay, well, they found a solution to their problem and they put it in our water. It's so bad it can't even touch the ground or vaporize. So they put it in our water for babies. It doesn't take a genius to figure out we shouldn't be doing that.
This one from I Killed Earl says, dental hygienist here. Infants are born with teeth just under the gums. Some babies are born with neonatal teeth. You're objectively wrong. What's it?
Dude, think about how desperate you people. So now some babies are born with teeth underneath their gums. So we should give all babies fluoridated water before their blood-brain barrier develops.
All babies are born with teeth under their gums.
And what's even
she said that some babies are born with actual teeth already emerged.
So we should give all babies fluoride. And
they have teeth. You're saying that they don't have teeth.
No, most of them don't.
But they do. All babies do. You're wrong.
Not that can actually be affected with topical application via drinking water. And again, that's
not how drinking water works.
Even the CDC,
it doesn't work that way. It gets inside your body.
They said that there's no actual evidence.
Application. You don't even understand this issue.
No, see, you
really don't.
No, they admitted that there's no evidence for systematic actual benefit. Objectively, the CDC themselves said it has now been demonstrated.
I'm sure you're cherry picking a quote that is totally taken wildly out of context.
Provide evidence.
Because you can go to the CDC website and you can see that they are a strong advocate of fluoridation.
They've come out in their own studies and admitted that the actual only benefit that could benefit or causal link, even that can even be like kind of established, is topical.
It's more bullshit.
Dude, the fact that it's so funny. So you're saying that the benefit's not topical, even though it's well known that it's
not.
topical.
Are we? I can't believe we're 2.5 hours into this debate.
So
and
your only
you
evidence- your
are
only
actually
evidence-
under the impression that when you drink drinking water that has fluoride in it, that it's getting on it when you are actually drinking it. That's not how it works.
Dude, that's my whole point, bro.
It's not topical.
My whole point is that the benefit that was originally assumed of it being systematic, going in your body and somehow helping your teeth, which is so laughably stupid. Okay, there's
That's
no
how it works.
there's no evidence for it, and the only evidence for actual benefits of fluoride is topical. Now we know, of
Wrong.
course, drinking water isn't going to help you topically. That's my whole point. You're trying to act like I was so stupid. I thought that's what we were. No, that's my whole point, is that they ended up had to later admit that it's only topical benefits and the ingestion doesn't actually do anything. We know that drinking water doesn't help topically. And then your only argument that it does is to show these cherry picked data sets to say, look, certain places that don't have fluoride have worse teeth. And then I point out that the countries with the most healthy teeth in the world don't have fluoridated drinking water. So then we find out the actual thing is socioeconomic issues and access to dental health care.
Yeah,
So
right.
it has
They have
nothing to do with
socialized healthcare
fluoridating
systems
our
where they do
water.
fluoridation treatments.
Wait, do you think the
in,
only
in
dentists
very young children?
do you think the only dentists that prevent cavities have to use fluoride? Is that what you think?
There are other methods that can be used, but most of them
Okay.
do. Yeah, and
So
the
we
ones
don't
in
need
Europe
fluoride.
certainly are using it.
We don't need fluoride at all.
That's not true.
Oh my
We will
God.
jump. Well, actually, that's the last of our questions. I want to say, folks, our guests are linked in the description. Even if you disagree, there's a value from hearing their arguments straight from the horse's mouth. That way, if you do want to, for example, if you wanted to debate one of them, you have to hear it straight from their mouth in order to refute it in the best way possible. Mott, thanks for your quick super chat came in. They said, Witsit, is the EPA a useful agency?
Yeah, I think it's useful in some senses, sure, of course. Like you need some regulatory body so that people can't just do anything and everything they want in our environment. The perfect example is just like throwing this crazy toxic, industrial waste product everywhere. So I think it's useful. I think in its current state, it's super corrupt. And over regulation like completely destroys economic growth. So that would be my take.
You got it. Want to remind you, folks, whether you're listening at Modern Day Debate or the podcast, folks, if you didn't know, Modern Day Debate does have a podcast. You can find it at Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Spotify. You name it, every podcast app. And we put our guest links in the description box there. Check out their links. Learn more about their views. Even if you disagree, then you know exactly what you are disagreeing with. And want to say, folks, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Thank you very much for our guests, Austin and Dr. Thompson. It's been a true pleasure to have you guys.
Yeah, much love, man. Sorry I got a little heated, but it's all love.
It's all good.
Passionate. I always tell people I would much rather have it be a passionate debate where it's, kind of wild rather than people who just like don't really care that much about the topics. That's kind of like, it's like not as enticing, right? So we do appreciate your guys' passion. I will be back in just a moment, folks, with about 2 minutes, in about 10 seconds. An honest doubter quick said, most of Europe doesn't fluoridate. Why? Is there a 1 to 2 sentence answer?
What was the
I don't
question
wanna-
I missed?
He said most
Of Europe doesn't fluoridate. Why? And the reason why
Because they said that there are poisonous toxicological effects, and then they actually normally have socialized dental health care. So that's the answer.
they have socialized dental health.
They are official public statements that it has toxic effects.
Sure.
Look it up.
Okay.
Also, De Mauser says Witsit doesn't seem to know how his own body metabolizes the very things he masticates. That's chews, folks, and swallows.
I don't chew water. That's crazy.
You got it. Want to say thank you for Nathan Johnson in the chat said he masticates on water. Want to say thank you guys for being here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I'll be back in about 15 seconds or so with quick updates about MDD. So stick around as I'll be talking about upcoming debates. And thanks one last time to our guests.
Yeah. I'm not dying. Get out of here. Not dying.
Ladies and gentlemen, want to say thanks so much for being here. I enjoy this so much. I do want to say hello to you in the old live chat. That was 2 debates today. Then they were amazing. Want to say thank you so much for your support. Billy Bongs a lot. I see you there in the old live chat. Thanks for being a subscriber. Native Wildman, thanks for being a subscriber. I Killed Earl. Thanks, Dr. Coons. Thank you for your support. Appreciate that. I Killed Earl. Romans 10, happy to have you here. Iron Horse, oh boy, there he is. Flat Earth Ozzy. he's making trouble in the chat. Good to see you. Brian Cash, good to see you there in the old live chat. And Christopher Allen, thanks for being with us. Harlesburg, glad to have you here. Brads, thanks for being a subscriber. Justin Kirshenman, thanks for being a subscriber. Killerman Kakazoo, thank you for being with us. Green Onion, glad you were here. Tom Budas, thanks for being here. Thanks for being channel members. Huge thanks to Max V for doing that huge channel membership gift. He gifted 100 memberships for this channel. Amazing. Archer Dog, thanks again for your generous super chat. We appreciate that. But thank you guys for all. And that's, yeah, you can see both Archer Dog and Max V's. They're up the top of the chat. We do appreciate your guys' support. It means a lot. As this is basically, I'm looking to teach eventually. So I want to use my PhD and basically teach lightly. In other words, like maybe you just not be a full-time professor, be what they usually call an adjunct professor. In the meantime, modern day debate is my full-time job. So we do appreciate your support. And I think someday, there's a possibility that I'll be like fully full-time in the sense that I'm going to maybe say, hey, you know what, teaching's been fun, but I'll be stepping away from that too. But I do want to teach for a while. I do enjoy academia. And so we do want to say thank you for all your support though. And there's like so many different ways that you guys, everybody, we appreciate your support. Thanks. I know that if I see you in the live chat, you're a subscriber because I put on subscribers only chat mode. Little Baloo, thanks for being a subscriber. Matthew Pip, thanks for being a subscriber. Hercules, let me know if I'm saying it the way you want me to say it. Thanks for being a subscriber. Billy Bongs a lot says, thanks, man. Thanks for your support, Billy. And Island Wit, thanks for being a subscriber. GMonk003, thanks for being a subscriber. I'm Rick. Thanks for being a subscriber. You guys, we really do appreciate it. If you know of anybody who, this is another way that, we do appreciate the help. If you guys want to, we appreciate it. We're not entitled to it. So, we never expect it. Don't feel obligated. But if you do know somebody that loves topics like these, and you're like, hey, I got a friend who would definitely enjoy this topic, or I know of a Facebook group or a Twitter group or thread, please share by clicking on that share button. Grab that link and you can share it with somebody over text message. You can send them that link over Facebook Messenger or a Facebook page. We really do appreciate that. That helps us grow. That means much more. If, for example, if they hear, if I say to people, like, hey, subscribe to Modern Day Debate, they're like, yes, of course, James, you'd say that because you like run Modern Day Debate. But if they have a third party, somebody who's like, no, I just watch it. I'm a third party. I'm not the guy running Modern Day Debate, and you recommend it. It goes much further in terms of whether or not people actually check us out. So we do appreciate that. Billy Bongs a lot. You can find me at my email, which is moderndaydebate@gmail.com, if you really do want to debate Witsit. And also, if you check out the description box, we have a link that lets people know what we're looking for from potential speakers. The biggest thing is we just hope for short emails because sometimes people send me like pages worth, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I just don't have the energy to read pages worth. If it's like I'm still open to. I'm gonna put this back in the description. If anybody had like a prayer request or they just wanted somebody to listen, if they're just like, hey, I just had a bad day, would love to have somebody to listen. I'm not a counselor. That's not the type of psychologist my degree is or I am. And so I can't, I'm not a counselor, but I can listen if you've ever had a hard day. I am at moderndaydebate@gmail.com. So, and I'm the only one that checks that email. So, if you do send an email, that is me. And, but yeah, so if you're talking about having a hard day, then it's okay to have a long email. But if you're wanting to come on Modern Day Debate, it makes it so easy if you just say, here's a sometimes I get like an email and it's like I shouldn't be. I'm not trying to be mean, but they're like, "Hey James, hey, I want to debate." And I'm like, "Okay, you want me to like fish it out of you, huh?" But if you just send an email and you say, "Hey, I want to debate topic X, and here is my position on topic X. Please help me get set up for a debate." I'm like, "Period. Got it." Register slow. Thanks for your super chat. It says fluorosis happens before teeth breakthrough. Witsit is right. Wow, juicy. But yeah, I want to say we appreciate your support. We are excited about the future. Modern Day Debates Debate Con Conference. So this is our big debate conference. It is Saturday, September 15th, February 15th, not September. It is Sunday, February 16th as well. So it's a 2-day conference. We're going to have one religion debates day and one political debates day. We are excited for this. It's going to be bigger than any of our others. We are excited about the future. Modern Day Debate is just getting started. Our vision is to provide a neutral platform so that everybody has a neutral platform where they can make their case on a level playing field. That's our vision. We are just getting started. We want to say thank you for helping us get to 201,000 subscribers. This is just the beginning of our story, though. Modern Day Debate is a barreling locomotive. We are just going to keep breaking through every barrier as we completely destroy any challenges. We are going to keep growing because we believe YouTube deserves a better class of debate channel, and we're going to give it to them. That is a fully neutral one. Not just in our moderation, though that's definitely important, but also we only host debates. There are no videos where I, say, "Oh wow, that person was so bad in this debate," or "Oh, that position was so dumb." Nope, never. It is pure debates on this channel, and that is, by the way, we are the only channel on YouTube that is that. I've seen other channels that are like primarily debates, but they'll also do interviews where, a person will be able to push their political views basically unchallenged, which is, I'm just so annoyed that they do that because it's like, wait, thought you guys were a debate channel and now you guys are having, and also not only that, but it's common that they'll just have one side that they interview and don't really give pushback to. So Modern Day Debate is doing something different. As I said, we believe YouTube deserves a better class of debate channel. Now my YouTube is not loading up. I feel like YouTube's had some issues lately. So what I'm gonna do is I can't see the live chat anymore. Darn it, YouTube. Is it just me or is it, let me know hopefully I can get the chat up in the next 30 seconds here. Is it just me or has anybody else had the same issue where lately YouTube is just so annoying where I can't get pages to load? Take a deep breath. We're going to get through this. But yeah, I want to say thank you guys for your support. Know Your Realm, glad to have you here. And Bogan, thanks for coming by. Mutton Chopper, thanks for your support. And let's see here. September. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, thanks, Billy. Take care. I hope you have a fun time. It matters now. And Sharky, thanks for coming by. Says, anyone here from Florida? Florida. I'm actually out here in Phoenix. Anybody else in Phoenix? There's got to be somebody here. What have we got? Like 400 people? Almost 400. I'd be super surprised if there's not one person from Phoenix here listening right now. Anybody else in Arizona? Or let me know in chat. I think chat's freezing up on me again. I'm insane with anger. But let me know in chat. Anybody in the state of Arizona? Anybody in the state of Texas, where I used to live? Or Wisconsin, where I grew up? Or anybody from outside of the United States and watching right now? Dan Clifton says Joe from Phoenix. Joe, are you talking about Joe from the Hake Report? Uh, let's see. Dunkin' Donut says, "Did you see the Phoenix lights?" No, I didn't. What was this recent? Let me know. But yeah, I'm gonna step outside and take a walk in a second. Dan Bruce says, "I'm in Texas." Rick says, "Texas here." Wow. And then Zen says, "I'm a northern boy." Which state? Wow, Nate S. There you are. Gilbert, Arizona. That's basically Phoenix. You're probably like, no joke, Nate, you're probably like 15 minutes from me. I'm in South Scottsdale, so we are super close. Let's see. Master Optics, good to see you. Says, hey, James. And then let's see. Alex Hills from New Zealand. Master Optics from Mexico. Sean Gregory watching from Australia. It's always cool. I always get excited when we have people watching from all over the place, within the US and outside. Know Your Realm from Sydney, Australia. Tommy Cogs from Austin. But yeah, I want to say we love you guys. Zens is from Michigan. That's where I was born. No joke. Tom Buddha says Key West, Florida. I'm closer to Cuba than to Miami. Wow, that's cool. I like that. Let's see. I'm so tired. I don't know if you guys noticed. I know you guys noticed because someone in chat was like, is James awake?" Uh, I've been so groggy today. If I look like a zombie, I can tell you I feel like a zombie. I guess I just didn't sleep well. I don't know what it was, but I am making it happen. Native Wildman says from Manhattan, Kansas. Wow. Brian Cash also from Michigan. But yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, in Zents, I actually was born in the Upper Peninsula. But yeah, thanks for your guys' support. I'm gonna let you go. I gotta get up. My butt's like kind of feeling weird from just sitting this long. So appreciate you guys. You guys, it's hard to leave when I do this little post credits stream, just because I really enjoy just hanging out with you guys and it's just fun. So appreciate your support. Love you guys. Keep it real, homies, and keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. We will see you at the next debate. We should have 2 to 3 debates next weekend. So it should be like Friday, Saturday. Um, and I just actually pull this up just because I did tell you that I actually would tell you what debates we'll be having. So let's see. Lately, we've had just a huge influx of people reaching out to want to debate flat Earth. So yes, Friday at 4 p.m. we'll have a flat Earth debate, and then 8 p.m. we'll have another debate. So that'll be not on flat Earth, that'll be on our trans women. And then on Saturday we'll have another debate. So 3 debates next weekend. That Saturday one will be, you guessed it, flat Earth. It'll be Flatterday night. So, but we are excited though. You guys, if you hope you guys like those fun, kooky topics. We'll see you at those next debates. Thanks for your kind words, Iron Horse. Appreciate your support. He says he likes my OnlyFans page. That's funny. I definitely don't have an OnlyFans page. I think you're Iron Horse. You're projecting. Okay, we know that you're on OnlyFans, man. Okay, but thank you guys. We'll see you at the next one. Love you. Take care.